Hi everyone, and welcome back to Fringe. Today is the season 1 extras with a bunch of behind the scenes on how they made the series, how they thought about the series and stuff. There's a lot of footage, and I hope you guys are happy about it. I am, and I can't wait for season 2. But I always love watching this because it feels like, especially with finished series, I don't really get to know the actors. So this is I get to see who they are as a person rather than an actor, right? So I think that's really cool, and I'm really looking forward to watching this, especially as I'm doing this with my new computer. And I've tested it, and it should work, but still. So I'm excited for this to be cool and run smoothly. Hopefully, it should. But yeah. So I think without further ado, let's go with the extras. Let's go.
Quite embarrassing because we're not ready to shoot. So I'll just sit here like an
One sec. Subtitle. There it is. Oh.
I'm sorry.
I love behind the scenes. And boom.
I didn't do it.
I had a fruit cocktail once in Atlantic City. What is this, the Gong Show or something?
You almost fell. What did you do?
Nothing.
I love when they fall. It's just the best. Am I too high? I think I'm too high.
I was trying and then it squeaked again.
Ooh, that is a Fringe moment.
A cell phone.
Hey.
Forgot your line.
My phone rang right as I was entering.
Okay,
I'm so
let's
sorry.
go back. Let's just bring Lance back for the last line.
Did you just throw away
I
his
just
phone?
slipped into something a little more comfortable.
Nobody reads the scripts. Oh, is that going back to LA?
That's so gross.
Off. Did you like that, boys? Danger, danger.
It's a flat.
A
No,
flat?
this is America. Do that again.
The batteries are flat.
No, dead. This is America. Do it again.
He jumped.
This is so weird to see Walter break.
Do it in the
I love seeing them laugh.
Hey, let me get that, sweetheart.
17, wow. Just couldn't stop laughing.
Sorry.
Stupid, stupid girl.
Okay, him laughing is the best because, Walter laughing is. You see him laugh sometimes, but Bishop, nah, you don't. Like so many weird faces.
It has worked so beautifully every time.
You gotta use the kung fu grip there, girl.
Don't go in there.
Go away.
If we do it again,
Yeah.
I feel like scheiße.
Like what?
I'm sorry, I gotta do it again.
Her disgusted
Dream
face.
for the last year.
Damn it. I have my serious face on and everything.
Astrid, Charlie just called. Apparently, Aminimum. Oh God.
Well,
A minimal.
The potency of the dose I found, because that's who's. That's
Have far-reaching improvement. I'm sorry, man.
the last time you were in the sensory didn't. Oh, bugger.
No, he's not here. He's on some son of.
I didn't know he was British. This is so weird.
Yeah.
Before
But
I
it
could
makes
test
sense.
You started to
Oh, baby, that's why you married me.
This will be the third. I'm sorry. One more time.
His voice
I'm
is.
sorry. Can we do it one more time? I'm sorry, one more time. Recording up. I'm sorry, can I do it one more time? Excuse us. Damn it. One more time.
And it's weird because he seems like everything is going well, you
And
know?
I just can't get back.
That was it. I'm gonna remove one pillow. Haha, that's better. Oh yeah. The props are so real. Well, they look real in the behind the scenes and stuff. I'm so too high. That's good. This is someone.
I'm Glenn Whitman. I'm a new media consultant.
And I am Robert Chiappetta.
We use our science advisors in two ways. One is they'll find some interesting scientific principle. The other way is we'll say, we want to do this, go justify it scientifically.
A lot of what's in our pilot and what you will see over the course of the series is
They
extremely
fucked up
strange
sometimes
and bizarre.
because it makes no
it's
sense.
all based in some degree of reality.
There are times at which an entire episode will be born out of some interesting article. And then there are other times that episodes will start with an emotional story that's in search of the fringy science that's going to make it cooler, going to make it specifically an episode of our show.
Ultimately, it's a fantasy to some degree, but there's always some degree of truth. You will hopefully turn off your television and wonder if what you've just seen is possible.
A woman pregnant to term was found alone outside the hospital. She's a Jane Doe.
Did the baby survive?
The newborn was convulsing, screaming in obvious pain. It was growing before their eyes.
The rapid aging that the serial killer was attempting to offset, the idea that the government had created rapid aging to
That an actual
grow
person?
soldiers to their peak physical performance in 6 years. You know, that's based on an actual disease that rapidly ages you.
Advanced rapid aging, like the disease called progeria, can be induced artificially.
There's a disease that causes children to look like they're very, very old. And so
Really?
Walter mentions this disease just in passing. Well,
it
actually,
is an
those
actual
children
person.
aren't really aging fast. It's a different kind of syndrome that's going on, which we knew, but the point was to make sure that something was mentioned that people would actually have heard of, and as a result of that, it makes it seem just a little bit more real to people.
Oh no, I hated that episode. It was so not
The
cool.
idea that the final image seen by a dead person could be imprinted onto their retina is an idea that's been around as long as Jules Verne, if not before then.
Really?
There was a scientist who, at some point many decades ago, was able to recover an image seen by a rabbit after death as a result of treating the rabbit's eyeball with some kind of a bromide solution.
When you
Really?
look at the sun or any
That's
sort of
real?
bright scene, when you close your eyes, that scene appears in your eye kind of upside down, sometimes a refracted image. Retention of images, it's called. It's one of the reasons motion pictures work. This is the same theory is based upon this.
So gross. Ooh, oh, they're doing every episode. That's cool.
It has arrived.
To some extent, this is an episode that's meant to go beyond the science that even our incredibly brilliant people on the show know about.
You know what it is, don't you?
Why is it here?
Why now?
Scientists and the medical community, they are using MRIs, which exist, to read people's thoughts, brainwave patterns, and try
Really?
to deduce from that what they're thinking about.
And they've even found that they can predict some actions that people will take seconds
is
before the
very
person
cool.
actually has the subjective experience of deciding to make that decision and then taking the action.
The man in the woods, he knew me. And I don't know how, but he was inside my head. He knew what I was going to say before I said it.
The latest theories of science in terms of
So creepy.
quantum theory and all that stuff is very much based on the observer and how an observer can change the reality of something. So the observer kind of started off as a sort of a scientific principle, and then it actually got narrowed down into actually being a person.
In Power Hungry, we talked about the idea of a computer virus being able to jump to humans. And through needing that idea over and over again, we sort of came up with the idea of a character, Joseph, who would start waking up to this power of his to be able to actually control electronic or computer-driven devices.
Control. What the hell's the matter with you?
They put me under some hypnosis. I don't know. And they said they were going to realign the electrical impulses of my brain.
It is true that human beings, as a result of the electrical activity in our brains, we do all have a very, very weak magnetic field around our heads, and that's in part what is sensed by an EEG. So the notion was, how can
That's
you
really
amplify
cool.
that?
What science?
It's like they
Has
take
made
these
you
things that are just like, that's never gonna happen, and then they make it happen. Oh, God. Yeah, no, that was
Essentially, what's
intense.
going on here is this girl has got a kind of
Sorry,
radioactive
I
process
don't
going
have
on
an answer
inside her
for
which
that.
releases intense bursts of microwave energy.
I
Imagine
didn't mean
an
to
egg
do
or
that.
an apple or a mango in your microwave spinning round and round at high voltage. What happens? Dang! It just explodes. And that's sadly what happens to our young lady's head.
JJ wanted to have someone's
I
head
just
explode
realized.
in the teaser.
The ailment that she had, Bellini's lymphemia, we wanted.
How? I keep forgetting how to do. It's here.
An autoimmune disease.
Okay.
But we needed one that did specifically what we wanted it to do, which was, you know, when you mix.
It wanted to have someone.
The character Joseph.
Oops. I fucked up.
Said they were gonna line the electrical impulses of my brain.
412. 412.
This is real.
Brains, we do all have a very, very weak magnetic field around our heads, and that's in part what is sensed by an EEG. So the notion was, how can you amplify that?
What science has made you, Joseph?
You are special.
I just saw it, and I'm still bleh every time.
Essentially, what's going on here is this girl has got a kind of radioactive process going on inside her which releases intense bursts of microwave energy. Imagine an egg or a papaya or a mango in your microwave spinning round and round at high voltage. What happens? Dang! It just explodes. And that's sadly what happens to our young lady's head.
JJ
Oh my
wanted
God.
to have someone's head explode in the teaser.
The ailment that she had, Bellini's lymphemia, we wanted an autoimmune disease. But we needed one that did specifically what we wanted it to do, which was, you know, when you mix that autoimmune disease with a specific cocktail of drugs, you become a human bomb.
Powering up. 3.
Yeah, I don't remember if it
2,
actually existed.
1. Charge.
Oh, that was really cool. And they use it only once. I feel like you could.
That phasing through a wall.
No,
is
it's because of the
actually sort of a
radioactivity that they
theoretical
did it.
concept
My bad.
that physicists have been talking about for a number of years. And the idea is that solid matter is actually mostly just empty space.
Yeah, it's-
And the reason that you can't go through a wall is that the atoms in that wall have created a force field that as you push against it, they push back against
I don't
you
know.
as much
I
as
don't know
you're
how much
pushing. So
all of
here
this
the
is
idea
accurate.
was
Also,
that
this
our bad
is
guys has
a
used
bit
the
old,
equation
so I don't know if
that
like
they
it's
found out in
better or
episode
worse.
108 how to phase through a wall, how to push the atoms apart and slip past the atoms into the safe.
But there's consequences to that. Why did they keep giving us the grossest ones?
This idea that a virus could rewrite your genetic code is not actually that far out of the box. Obviously,
Really?
we've taken it to an extreme place, but there are viruses called retroviruses that actually operate by taking their own DNA and literally inserting it into the DNA of the host, meaning you.
That's
In
really
fact,
cool
this has
and
been
frightening.
used in a variety of genetic therapies. In particular, I remember reading an article just recently about how scientists have been able to use a virus to insert a gene into the retinal cells of people with a certain genetic form of blindness
And cure it.
actually be able to restore some of their sight through the use of this virus.
That's really cool.
Walter, is that what you're going to use to read the boys' thoughts?
Yeah.
My dear, to listen to them.
Time magazine in this past year ran an article about the United States Army trying to build helmets for soldiers that would allow them to directly communicate with those soldiers so that the soldier just thinks something and the commander can hear what they're thinking or transmit orders to soldiers out in the field.
Think of it as creating artificial vocal cords.
Right now, they're working on devices that are able to read your thoughts.
They didn't succeed. I mean, that I know of.
So are you saying that he's psychic?
No, No, more a shark.
There are, in fact, animals like sharks and rays which have a kind of electromagnetic sense,
That's cool.
which allow them to kind of communicate with each
Or
other
like
in a
hive
nonverbal
minds, right?
way,
I don't know if that's
and to
actually
bring
a
out
thing,
or
but-
stimulate certain behaviors in other members of their species.
Tell me you didn't open that door in there.
Yeah, you bet I did.
The dumbass.
Get out.
Jonathan.
Yeah, oh,
I
get
remember
out.
the dumbass.
Experimenting on animals is a crime.
Somebody shut her up.
We love the episode Unleashed because in many ways that episode went back to
Chimeras.
some of the developments that have been taking place in science that were part of the inspiration for the show to begin with.
Oh, really?
In particular, transgenics, the notion that you could have organisms with genes from other species. That's science now. That is the reality. And in fact, the Nobel Prize in Chemistry last year went to 3 chemists who were able to isolate a gene from a glowing jellyfish. And this glowing jellyfish gene has been inserted in a variety of other animals and has been used in part for things like Huntington's disease research.
For those of you just joining us, what you're looking at is the work of ZFT, a terrorist organization responsible
Last
for at least
episode.
a half a dozen biological attacks over the last
next
several
to
months.
la- I think
Everything
this
we know
is
thus far
19.
can be found in your packets, including a copy of their manifesto, which elucidates their ideology and their methods. Destruction by the advancement of technology.
In The Road Not Taken, again, we were posed with trying to find a new and gruesome way to blow people up. They wanted to do pyrokinesis. They wanted to have someone spontaneously combust and burn up. So this is where we sort of leaned back into some of our mythology and came up with the idea that maybe something this person had been injected with as a child was coming back to haunt them.
But the notion is some kind of a medical treatment that they were given allowed their brain to command vibrations that
That's
take
really
place.
interesting.
And it really is
I like
true that
how we get
essentially
to
what
see
heat is
what
vibrations.
their
And if
inspirations
your
were.
brain could cause some kind of a vibration to take place, eventually you could create enough heat to even create a flame.
And if you haven't yet mastered pyrokinesis and the ability to excite molecules that are outside your body, well, then you're going to excite the ones inside your body and you're going to blow up. Sadly.
I posited in 1976 that it is possible to synchronize the fields of 2 distinct minds to allow the sharing of information
Oh, that's episode 1.
across the unconscious state.
We only want to tell things that have, at the very least, a large kernel of truth in them. Science right now is so beyond even our wildest imaginations that they'll pitch us
Oh,
stuff
this is
over
a dead
and
guy.
nobody
Okay.
would believe that. And so we've actually found it quite easy to ground our craziest theories in hard science.
That's cool. Ooh. This is a literal behind the scene.
While he survived the initial blast, Agent Scott was exposed to some synthetic chemical compounds. Work that was
That's
done in the
always
lab.
so gruesome to see.
Part of casting Mark Valley that it was an unknown was would he be able to put himself through full body makeup day after day after day, some days lying in the middle of scenes, other days being involved in the scene.
They lay me on a slab with a Speedo and they start lathering me up with chemicals and synthetics.
That's just taken
Gordon
so
Smith
long.
is using his makeup artists to texture paint all the individual organs of the body.
Oh, that's how they did it.
Airbrush him down to pale him down, and then we built a whole veining system.
I wonder if he fell asleep. That would have been funny. Like Mark. Mark.
Muscles drawn in and some of the sinews and tendons and things like that.
Portions of his body will actually be three-dimensional, that you can actually see within. And as the process evolves further, more and more of his body will become CG.
So okay, you did like the basics and then
The
you
real
finish
hook
the
of
rest
the
with
makeup
CGI. That makes
is
sense.
Always the live element. He is always alive. He's always breathing, the pulsation.
Oh, because that's why they wanted him
First
so
day it took
he
about
could
6
breathe.
hours, but once they got better at it, they could do it between like 3 and 4.
That's still a lot of time, buddy.
There's some days where they would specialize in the chest. Generally, it was head to toe every day.
Oh god, it's so
I
long.
would walk to set kind of like this, you know, knowing that I was like a vertical pie.
I think that's disgusting. It is.
He was incredibly strong and tough and got through it with grace.
God, my neck keeps peeling off.
Not a sentence you thought you would hear.
5 Charlie, take 1. Hey, Mark. Yeah.
We have a prosthetic face and with an eye being removed in the scene.
Oh.
We are trying to remove the eyeball of this young lady so that we can discover where she was before she died.
We're looking at doing, a head, which is this one back here with an eyeball we remove.
It's really cool to see the head because it really does look just like me, even though it's very gruesome because the eyeball is popping out of the head.
We get the actual plaster positive of her head, and from there we drill out the eyeball, sculpt it open.
Not my cup of tea.
And through a series of molds, we end up with
like
this right
I know
here.
it's fake,
The
but
theory that we can remove that eyeball, inject light into that eyeball, supposedly with some
wanna see
electronics and some
it
computer
anymore.
manipulation, we can retain the last images that that person saw.
What we're doing now is trying to reconstruct what she actually saw in her last moments.
And we've rigged a gun through our prop department called a photon gun that he's prepared for us. The prop is actually based on a real device, which is a real millimeter wave camera.
Still
They use them in
really
airports to
freaking
look
creepy.
through people's clothes for concealed weapons and such. And I know it's all based on research that's been done recently, so that's really exciting.
We got a lot of actual photographic reference, on the set and from the location, and then we have to take that imagery and composite it into the various computer monitors and displays.
it was cool that they made it like
It's taking
upside
real
down at the
group
beginning,
effort
so because
amongst
we
all these
see
different
upside down
departments
and
to
then
pull this
our
off.
brain just kind of flips it.
Just more
Something a bit
faster,
more
better,
complex
bigger,
than that,
and
but
there's
that's
a
the
lot more to come.
gist. So I think that's really cool. They're gonna do every episode.
I think when people see this,
Yeah.
they'll be horrified.
Yeah, that's most of this show.
What we're doing today is we're simulating a gas bomb that goes off on a bus.
We're going to be driving around on the streets of New York.
This show must have like so many extras because like every episode is like a different person that's like
style, running and gun.
dies, So it must be so hard.
Businessman on his commute home from work with maybe 25 other people going home.
They go into a tunnel and he opens up a briefcase, pulls out a gas mask, puts it on, and all the people on the bus notice it.
It's sort of scary looking, isn't it? It's like a cyclops. One big eye.
Meh, it's not that bad.
Our gent pulls this out.
Yes.
It looks a little bit innocuous when he does. Maybe it's a thermos or something.
And he opens it up, gets up, and rolls it down the aisle, and smoke comes out of it.
It is
Everyone's
smoke
just freaking
that
the fuck
starts out
out.
as a gas and then solidifies, trapping the people in the bus as if they're in amber.
What my department's in charge of doing today is providing the physical smoke, the moving smoke in the bus.
It's a tube that's going to feed smoke when he opens up the device
Oh.
that's going to let out the smoke in the scene.
What we
He's
have
like,
to do is create the solid
I keep
smoke
looking here, but
that
you're
traps
over
it.
here. My
So we
bad.
have real
Because I have
actors on
my
the real bus
my screen with
sort
what the
of
fuck's
frozen,
going
and
on
we
there.
have to fill in all the stuff
Sorry.
that is encasing them.
The big money
Not
shot
used
is
to it
when we
yet.
have our heroes, our stars of our show, come into the tunnel, into a crime scene, and for the first time, reveal the Jello mold, the death.
It was
tableau,
very
as we
cool,
call it.
but goddamn. How did they even? I bet it's CGI though. There's something on the right here. Which one is it? The Arrival.
Does your father have any other hiding places?
We're basically in the cemetery.
I get
here to
reminded
find
of what the
someone which is
episodes
at the
are
grave
with
of
this.
Walter's father.
We have
The
a
Rogue.
mysterious gentleman called the Rogue who has intercepted
I don't even know
this
what
piece of
his name
machinery.
was.
The rogue is from somewhere else. We're not quite sure where, but he's from another place.
Can I help you?
Oh yeah.
Right here I have the Rogue's weapon. It shoots energy. Yes, massive amounts
I
of
never
energy.
considered
To
that.
simulate the energy gun that the rogue
But he
fires
might
at
be from an
Olivia,
alternate
What we'll do
universe.
is put a pyrotechnic charge between the trees behind
I'm gonna
us
keep
here.
that in mind. Because that's a good
the rope
point.
takes off with a special iridium cylinder and runs through the forest, and we're off on our big chase sequence with Olivia chasing the rope.
It's also very mysterious. No one's exactly sure what power this has, but it seems to lead people to do very evil deeds.
It has influence.
What we're going to do is have a little bit of a lifter charge to illuminate where the cylinder has been sucked back down into the ground.
The observer arrives, and the observer is reporting that the cylinder is going to depart as scheduled.
Who the hell are you?
We have Josh Jackson. He dives and tackles the observer, and they have a nice fight.
Action!
Damn it! Who are you? What is the cylinder?
Oh,
This
it's
fight was challenging
light.
to choreograph because the observer doesn't fight back. He is only there to observe.
Departure on schedule.
That was my cylinder that I dropped and left behind. And it left me.
This is cool. I like it. It's also like a preview of season 1 before I get back in season 2. Like, I've
Today's a
forgotten
very
some of
exciting
this.
day. It's the action sequence of this episode.
Sorry. I think you're seeing it better than I am.
In this next shot, we have Olivia, and she's chasing Joseph around the corner.
Freeze! Stop!
He's trying to separate himself and get away.
They'll come
I
around
think it's
the
really cool
bend
that the
and the
stunt coordinator is a
transformer
woman.
blowing up with the power lines.
It's just like with these shows
This electrical
that are
current, and
slightly
he has
older,
the
there's not a
ability
lot of
to short
women,
circuit things
like,
and
directors.
start elevators and make them plummet.
Not like writers, but even
This is a
then,
mechanical
you know,
trip.
so it's cool.
It's holding the electrical cable, goes up through the hole, over the pole, over to the other side of the road. In this scene, we're going to fill this box full of sparking devices.
Huh.
Power
So
lines
that was
will
actually
explode,
it's cool now
transformers will
because
blow.
I think nowadays they don't really do that anymore. They just like we're like,
sparks
oh
will
well,
come
we're
out,
just doing
cable will
special
go up,
effects and
sparking down to the
CGI.
ground.
So it's cool that they actually do it.
And Joseph, as he's stopping, he's starting to realize his powers.
This young man runs by an electrical box and it blows up. You know, it really blew. The actor who was in the scenes, he came to me later and went, you know, that was actually really scary.
She's chasing after him.
Action.
Peter has since gotten out of the car. He swings and hits Joseph with a crowbar.
Finally, I'm gonna get a little respect on this.
We're about to do a scene
So
with our
hungry.
hero actress whose head is about to explode on camera.
2 o'clock in the morning. It's a quiet evening in Molly's dining.
I don't really want to see the explosion
Girl,
again.
Early 20s,
Like,
nobody's seen her before. She's obviously battered and bruised and damaged in some way. The cop comes over and tries to get her into conversation. He just wants to help her. Then something very dark and evil happens in the diner.
What the hell is this? She starts to make everyone's eyes bleed and everyone have massive headaches.
This girl has got a kind of radioactive process going on inside her, which releases intense bursts of microwave energy.
She's a result of some medical testing gone bad, and it's also contagious to those around her.
yeah, that was crazy.
When our actors begin to kind of have this microwave business going on inside their brains, essentially the illusion we want to create is their brains are boiling.
They have a special kind of blood that can be put in people's eyes.
The actor then goes, I can't believe it, it's so painful.
She tries to get out and escape, and then we have her head basically explodes. This will be filled with blood.
We push an actress up against a glass door. We shoot from behind the glass door.
I'm still seeing it, but
we have a little explosive charge inside the head.
I feel like
Boom.
I'm
Which is
looking
then
away from the
mock
explosion and
blood,
it's gonna
mock
happen
blood,
when I'm
mock
looking
brain
at it.
matter. Blood's gonna come through it. Goes, and explodes all over the glass. Imagine an egg in your microwave spinning round and round at high voltage. What happens? Dang! It just explodes. And that's sadly what happens to our young lady's head.
Okay, I missed it. Great. Like, I know it's fake, but still. Fringe. In which we meet
I'm an FBI agent. My character
Jones.
goes down and it looks like a heart attack after a raid.
We took him to the
Oh, this guy.
Do all the tests, they cut him open and they find something inside.
We found a creature growing on his chest.
What is that?
Some sort of a parasite clenching onto my heart.
That's so. It
And
was
of
so
course
creepy.
It goes to our fringe team, our heroes. Our scientist Walter has decided that he can only investigate this in his own lab.
My task is to first find out what it is.
That's so weird.
have to
To
find
hear
a way
with
to
his
cure this
accent.
poor guy
With
by
his,
ridding
well,
him
normal
of
way,
this
not his
horrible
American
parasite.
accent.
We are adding a heart parasite creature.
The actors there had a nice green hold on the day.
They have to have a prosthetic chest that they then open up,
Oh.
the alien clenched onto the heart.
So we created the bug, the heart, and these lungs. It's gonna look like it inside of here.
So it's a real person, the digital team. We actually have to build digitally, a 3D version, and then virtual creature.
Yeah, yeah. It was obvious it was CGI for this one,
The inserts.
but the fact that they just did
cut the
the
membrane,
wrist is cool.
spread open the torso.
Have all the guts and all the good stuff in there.
It's actually very revolting cutting a real pig open.
Better the pig than me.
The smell is still trapped in my sinuses.
Again,
Oh.
it's a typical Fringe night.
That's great.
This is the first fight that Olivia has got to be a part of. We've had heaps of fun, right?
Is she also British? Wow.
He said it was like time jumped. And the sun, the woman, and her car were suddenly gone.
I'm a very mysterious figure, and at the beginning of the episode, you see that I've taken this boy, I've kidnapped him. I have taken him to this room, and I have him hooked up to these EKG machines. I'm trying to get him to finish writing this piano piece, which I need to help solve an equation.
The song has something to do with time travel.
Very important to me.
Every moment that passes is another moment that little boy's life is in danger.
They figured out that I'm the one who's taken him. They've tracked me down. Olivia has finally gotten down into the subterranean basement where I have him. She discovers the little boy, goes to try and free him.
You're gonna be okay.
And
And
I
then-
come in.
It's her first big fight scene. It's been well choreographed, and they've been practicing for several weeks.
Donna broke it down really simply, so we went and just did it. We learned like the moves, but
Yeah, she
isolated
kinda
moves,
has
and then
access.
just sort of put them together in really small little bits, and then it was just there.
Added speed and power, and then just played. It was fun.
Yeah.
So is
and
she
it's
her
pretty
stunt double
violent
then?
And quite messy. If you get in there handheld and you get violent pieces and the classic sort of selling kind of thing, let the actors do it without getting hurt.
And it turns into a pretty phenomenal brawl, actually. We'll basically have two women kick the crap out of each other.
I mean, yeah.
Tonight on Fringe.
I think it's still good.
A horde of murderous butterflies come for you.
Oh, the butterflies. That weren't actually
The
butterflies.
scene starts off very subtly. Our character is giving a presentation and is attacked by butterflies with razor wings. Pretty much cut him to shreds, and to escape them, he charges through the window and plummets 29 stories to his death.
We shot the interior portions of our man running
So
towards
creepy.
the window, being attacked by butterflies.
The butterflies for this sequence are going to be as real as possible. We relied entirely on actor performance.
The effects guys were there. We all talked to each other as to like what we were kind
He
of planning.
just,
Something would
like,
happen. I would act.
faked it.
So I would experience
was
the
very
cut and we'd
realistic.
freeze. They would apply makeup, and then I have to unfreeze and move on.
We are going to do is swarm
That's why the cuts, they weren't weird, but they were...
butterflies that drive him out the window.
And now what we're doing is the sequence where he actually flies out the windows.
What we're doing is putting charges on the window, so that when the stuntman runs towards the window away from the butterflies,
Oh, yeah,
we
duh,
build
it's
the
a
window
stunt.
with little charges, and he jumps out.
We have tempered glass, we have a stuntman, we have two cameras, one high and one profile, that will be composited into a matte painting of the exterior of the building.
We've built a window set piece wrapped in green that will be, through visual
This
effects,
is really
turned into
cool.
the exterior of the World Trade
It makes me
Building.
want to be an
We're gonna
actor,
shoot some
but
high
then,
falling
then
shots
again,
where there'll be a
no,
stuntman
I'm
falling.
good.
With all
Like,
the
it
pieces
sounds
put
cool
together
being
with the
an
visual
actor.
effects and with the
I
performance
think
that
it
we
could
got
be
from
really
our actor told
nice,
me,
but...
it's going to be fabulous.
I don't know. I feel like I'd break a lot. So...
What we're doing here is mostly handheld and inside the car, so we get that point of view. I think it'll be a pretty
Wait,
nice sequence.
which one is it?
Fantastic.
I didn't see. Safe.
It's called Little Hill Field.
Oh.
We have Olivia who's trying to get to a place called Little Hill, and she's been racing through traffic on the highway, cutting people off left and right, trying to get there in a hurry. Out of nowhere comes this Lincoln Navigator.
She's now being chased.
Is it when she gets kidnapped, like at the ending where she gets kidnapped?
SUV starts tailing
Oh, she's got a, like a
Chasing her
a
down
cup.
a suburban street off of a main street.
She comes through the neighborhood,
She comes into this area here.
and then as she's coming through this one way, here comes another navigator, cuts her off.
Oh,
ends
but
up
she's
up
driving
on
the car.
Where she's pinned in by two cars
Because-
here.
We have some gunfire, blowing the tires with Conrad Boone from special effects.
Brian will get out of the car. He lifts his gun,
I'm gonna yell bang. That'll be the cue for him to pull the trigger on an empty gun.
And then all of a sudden the guys shoot her tire out.
Action, bang!
Clambers out of the car, runs, and then shot back.
I wonder how they remove the bang, because like they still have to have her scream, you know? So how did they remove just the bang?
4 steps, staggers, and goes down. She falls. It goes into a sequence where we see that she's been kidnapped.
Oh my God, what's gonna happen to her?
And we still don't know about that, do we? Like, I don't know if it was just like the thing to awaken her or not.
Is a multitude of pain. Our star, Anna Tor, better known as Olivia, been held captive.
What do you want?
And she's being held hostage by this clandestine group. Basically, they brought her here to do a spinal tap.
Have to extract something out of Agent Dunham.
Who are you?
Turn her over. She's strapped down. She's in a gurney.
They're gonna pull fluid out of her spine. And it's creepy and weird, and that's what we're going for, is to try
It's
and set
fake,
a like really
but-
awkward, horrible environment to be trapped in.
And then I
We
say
wanna
I
make
like
it
horror
as sort
games.
of visually interesting. And
I know,
dramatic as
it's very
possible.
contradictory.
We're gonna shoot it with dripping water and creepy lighting, and have her be in terrible circumstances.
Can I please have some water?
She uses her abilities as an agent to get her way out.
She basically turns the table on us in the midst of us doing our test and proceeds to unleash holy hell.
Take a glass.
She's so fucking
break it
badass.
on the first guy's face.
Throws a scalpel into Tony's back.
They have names now.
The scalpel into the back. Just showing just a lot of pain and grunting and groaning.
I get punched, but I don't get beat up like those yet.
We're taking the character Olivia to a higher level. She's a lot more active, and it's very exciting for us. We're excited to see where it goes.
Yeah, because I was like, when they were like, oh, it's her first big fight, I was like, really? But yeah, they all came later, the fights. They're no-brainer.
This is the bedroom for
Oh,
a character
right.
called Gregory.
My character is, he's really tapped into the technological world.
He gets intrigued by something that
Not
pops
that
up
much,
on his
there was-
computer screen, clicks on a few things.
The whole screen turns into a psychedelic show. and
First
you
of all,
just
that's not a
mesmerized by
touchpad.
the show.
I just realized.
Consequences happen. Bad consequences.
Like I said, you
An
touch
incredibly
me.
sophisticated
Never
computer
do that.
programmer
That's so
who has
stupid.
written a program that sends visuals to people.
Mar?
A ghoulish arm reaches out from the screen to them.
Ah, there we go.
And kills them.
Awesome.
What we're doing today is showing
Awesome.
the live action portion of this. We're having an actor wear a green sleeve.
I am a cyber virus.
They're hypnotized.
His
into
role was
they believe it.
freakishly long
I'm gonna
arm.
come out and pop the head of the innocent victim.
That sounds great.
We see the after effects of that, which is the melted brain.
Liquid brains. Oh, fantastic.
It's pretty disgusting. Jay Worth in LA is creating a computer-generated animated arm, and
It was very
interacts
cool.
with, this teenage boy who is our first victim. He's just sitting at home at his computer, and all of a sudden it attacks him.
I'm
Very
about
good
to get my
acting.
brain
Very good
splattered
acting.
all over the place.
Liquefied.
Liquefied, yes.
Tamed by Fringe standards.
I'd like to be just one of those, like, you know, who dies at the beginning. Just one of those actors.
The body's burning, and it's very exciting stuff.
The animal thing? No, the airplane.
We're at a soccer field, a suburban soccer field. A mom is bringing her kids to the car, and she spies in the reflection of the minivan this airplane hurtling out of control.
On a fairly normal flight, there is chaos in the airplane.
I am not messing around.
One of the passengers has mutated.
We have a passenger who's having a hard time.
You will see the transition from a person slowly
itches.
teeth fall out.
Special effects rigs and
Yeah,
visual
that's so
effects
creepy,
to enhance.
bro. Like,
These
things start to sprout through its back.
First they pierce through his clothing and then they extend.
Apparently there has been a
Goddamn
monster on board this plane.
It's so weird to see him smiling.
And once he got into the cockpit, well, that was the end of the deal.
We see it disappear behind a tree ridge and explode.
The plane crashed, and here we are trying to figure out what happened.
And this is the crash site behind us here.
There's airplane parts and wings.
That's our Fringe investigation team.
The team have been called in because they found the remains of this animal person here.
Well, the monster is actually half man, half porcupine.
It's great.
Porcupine.
Much more
I mean, it's not untrue.
vicious animal than a porcupine.
I think possibly one of the more gruesome ones we've done.
So
Really?
by all accounts, it was a pretty bumpy ride.
I like to see them messing around. It's funny.
Officer Camp meets pretty gruesome, unbelievable ends.
Safe? No. Every
Today
time
we're doing a
I'm
scene
like,
where the
I know what
FBI
this
comes
is.
and raids a building.
We're gonna raid this warehouse.
This warehouse place is the lair.
Oh, is it
for
the one with
our
the skin?
Bad guy Jones.
One of our FBI agents comes across a
Yes.
drawer with a $2 bill in it, grabs it, picks it up.
So
And all of
creepy.
a sudden, his mouth and his nose and his eyes and everything starts closing up.
He's touched a $2 bill that's given him this kind of disease.
And his skin starts growing over his eyes, his nose, his mouth, and his ears.
I end up suffocating inside of myself.
You're still alive! Let's go!
So what we're doing as far as creating the look for this is actually a combination of makeup effects and computer graphic effects. We end up doing the actual physical prosthetic appliances that are
Oh, so
full
he's
coverage
really
of his
like,
eyes and all
his
the
eyes are really
openings on his
close.
face.
Head casts of me. We did the
Oh
front
my
of
God,
face,
yeah.
we did the ears, and then we did the back and the torso.
And we have different stages that we'll be applying as they want them done.
We're gonna be able to do a swap in of a fake neck.
Our hero actors have to do anything they can to try to save him, so they give him an emergency tracheotomy.
When she drives the pen through the neck, gonna get all the good blood effect and everything like that.
The skin takes over, closes up that air hole, and they lose the agent.
All the orifices on my head become sealed over with skin and scar tissue.
Turns the gorgeous young man into a knot of flesh.
The mystery.
A knot of flesh! It was so creepy. Such a gruesome way to go.
Another cold day doing Fringe.
The boy. Inner child, yes.
This location is wonderful. It's a cemetery. It has a very creepy, strange
It's when they
feel
chase
to
the
it.
serial
Put
killer.
one light on any of these buildings, and it's just beautiful.
What's up? I'm judging you from the side.
Cemetery. We finally tracked down this killer, this like massive serial killer.
Yeah,
She
yeah,
runs
what's
into the
her?
Cemetery.
It's a
Olivia
weird accent.
follows
I don't
him.
recognize it.
There's a big foot chase, and then Olivia comes kind of around the corner. She doesn't hear anything, and then all of a sudden she's surprised and attacked by this guy. And he's got a knife.
This is
Let's go.
just the rubber version of the knife that we're going to be using in the fight. It's safe, and we've got a real one that we'll use in close-up shots.
Choreography is all about the knife and where the knife is and who has it and what they're doing with it. So it's our job to sell that story that who the knife goes into at the end.
Just got to get Glenn close on him.
We got a little too close, and I clocked him one in the eye.
Trying to keep the swelling down.
No!
We're bleeding to film Fringe.
Oh, really?
I really do feel really bad.
Olivia Dunham will kick your...
They cut him off. Damn. But she's so badass, so yeah.
This is actually Walter's moment where he gets to finally have an action hero moment.
It's
Oh.
terrifying, traumatic for him down in this slimy
I
sewer.
thought he said fucking terrifying. I was like, what?
Some animal rights activists freed a bunch of animals from a lab, but what they didn't realize is that in that lab there was also a genetically altered animal.
A chimera, guys. It's a
That animal
chimera.
eventually actually attacked and killed them.
We are in the midst of chasing down this genetic concoction of a monster.
Nothing to see here, ma'am. Just routine maintenance.
We're shooting here in the Boston sewer set.
Oh, they really went in the
heroes
sewers? Oh
finding
my
and
god.
then killing the creature. It'll be created in the visual effects world.
Damn,
of
that's
Fringe.
commitment.
I think Josh is extremely excited he gets to hold a gun in this episode and be like a tough guy.
What I have here is a 50 caliber Desert Eagle handgun.
Well, that's not exactly FBI standard issue.
This is what our heroes will be carrying.
Those 50 caliber guns are no nonsense.
This is our monster
Really?
killer.
We're doing
I don't know anything about
another big
guns.
CGI creature.
It's a phenomenal looking creature.
It's sort of a amalgam of bat, lion, you know, dragon type things.
Peter and Olivia and Walter go into the sewers to try and lure this beast to try and destroy it. Walter, feeling so incredibly guilty about what's happened, tries to be a hero.
Open this up right now.
Walter's just raced through, stolen my gun, and locked himself on the other side of this gate.
Which is not very Walterish.
Peter and I are trying to get him out.
Not prepared for this. That thing could tear you apart.
He says, I'm going to confront this animal myself.
And then he just was like, oh my
It's a sort of
god!
triumphant moment for him when he sort of slays the dragon, as it were, at the end of the episode.
Oh, does he? Yeah.
Terrifying. It's terrifying.
I thought it was Peter, but I guess it's him. Ba-da-now, ba-da-now, ba-ba! I don't know what that came from.
We are on the streets of Manhattan, 902 Broadway.
In rainy Manhattan with the traffic zipping by, I don't know who's working with us and who's not. There's people everywhere.
Where? Oh, her twin.
A lovely New York afternoon.
The episode is all about revealing something about Olivia's past and why she got roped into this Fringe world.
What is happening to me?
We're very blessed to have Akiva Goldsman as the writer. Akiva's won a couple of Academy Awards and also directing.
This is actually the set piece at the end of the episode, and there are a lot of people standing on that.
I feel like
edge up
usually
there.
the writers are
Here
more
we have a potential
there in the
mass
behind the scenes.
suicide
It's the first time we
on
saw
this
him.
building across the street.
The villain has a lot of emotional brilliance, and however he's feeling affects other people. He's very suicidal.
It's gone out of control, and this man's affecting people's moods.
So he's basically gotten 6 other people.
Affecting people's moods seems so light compared to what he's doing.
Basically, his bleak mood is having people saying, there's nothing to live for, we want to jump off, and we're going, oh my goodness.
The visual effects team is working in conjunction with special effects. Special effects is going to do the practical car implosion.
What we're doing today is simulating a woman jumping off of a building, and she lands on the roof of a car behind me, and the car is going to implode like the weight of her body.
Yeah, because
He's gonna be cool.
We'll have
in the scene, like no extras react to it except like Peter and Walter.
Cable to different points in the
So
roof.
I guess they just put that in.
Pneumatic rams close, pulling in the roof, pulling in the door. We'll have a little air cannon in there, push out debris, and little glass breakers to break the glass. Hopefully everything will go at the same time.
As usual, if I'm here, something bad is going to happen to somebody.
See, nobody wrecks.
That was awesome.
It's cool. I like it.
I've had to like make out with really good-looking guys.
It's not a vampire in a traditional sense.
Yeah, no, she's their spine fluid. It's worse.
Josh and Anna have arrested a young woman who has become a vampire-like character.
She's great. She's turned into like a beast, really.
She's actually always running low on spinal fluid, so she needs to seduce men and then kill them and then drink their spinal fluid.
Spine-sucking
So creepy.
She's using this nightclub as her hunting ground. Peter and I go in looking for her.
Are you Valerie Boone? It's her. Take her down.
And we find her, crank her, shove her in the car.
She's asleep in the backseat of the car as they're transporting her back to the lab.
But then she wakes
Peter
up.
and Olivia are driving and don't realize that the tranquilizers don't work as long on somebody of her type.
She wakes up and attacks.
We have a little scuffle in the back of the car.
It's very difficult to shoot a fight scene in a moving car. Sometimes the old ways are the best ways, and this is exactly the way they would have done it in the 1930s or 40s.
So it
We
was
had a
actually-
stationary car in a studio.
Oh, okay.
We moved the lights and we moved the camera to simulate.
Because I
the
was
car
like, bro,
moving
that's
down the road.
dangerous.
This, I'm simulating a street lamp, and this is a car passing by. Going into the mirror.
Using flashlights to simulate cars moving behind our picture vehicle. We can shoot the scene under a controlled environment.
She comes back to life, tries to strangle Olivia with a pair of handcuffs.
Peter takes her trank gun and then shoots me in the head with it a couple times. It's a really great role.
Cool. This is really nice. I just keep saying that because I don't have much to say, but like,
set somebody on fire.
Cool.
We all enjoy doing it. I'm sure it will be a great success.
Last episode 19. The Rona taken.
We finally trapped our character, Sanford Harris, played by Michael Gaston. We followed him here to this facility where we found a woman strapped to a chair.
This is a really great set, actually, that the guys have built at a warehouse.
Olivia, in the nick of time, saves the day by redirecting this inner force that our character Nancy Pratt has.
You can control this, okay?
She focuses it directly on me because I'm not a good guy.
Because I'm not a good guy. I mean, yeah, but like...
Everybody really has to think about what's going on and really focus tonight.
Sorry.
This is a quintessential moment where we can't have any mistakes. Everything is fire retardant. Special burn unit that we brought in, and the safety is our biggest concern tonight. Our actor, Michael Gaston, is actually on fire with a special gel.
Really?
What happens then is we'll cut, we switch him out, we bring in a stuntman.
Yeah, okay, because I was like, what?
I'll ignite me here in a few minutes.
Put him in the same costume, of course, wig him, put a face shield on for total protection, gel him up.
That must be
put
so
him
scary.
in, flammable gel, and finally we'll ignite the double.
3, 2, 1.
Oh god. So scary. Like, I recommend watching Fall Guy.
This is a grand finale.
It's a great, for like stunts, great movie.
Intersection in the middle of the city.
The Fall Guy.
The tractor trailer is coming from another dimension, and
the truck. I was wondering when you were gonna show for special effects.
And a whole bunch of sparks, fire, and smoke, and plows into a car in the intersection.
We find half a truck, and we don't quite know what's happened. We're on the trail, and we're about to shoot the truck smashing in.
What we're doing today is we have a cable crash. We have a tractor trailer that's attached to a cable that's attached to another car that's going to have a crash in the middle of an intersection.
We have taken a smaller truck, dressed it as if it's been cut in half. Special Effects has rigged it so
I was like, is that an actor? Because he sounds young.
Bring a cable to the front of a car, same cable to the back of the trailer, and one pulls the other one into the shot, so timing is all good.
It's basically going to add the back 2/3 of the truck on in CG.
Oh, okay.
Action!
Tractor trailer will be going about 35 miles an hour when it hits, and the car will be going about half that. That's 17.
There's sparks, smoke, some fire inside.
When it gets T-boned,
You rarely see effects of this scope, scale, or certainly quality on television.
It's going to be good.
Sure. I think I've seen bigger, but at the time it was probably really cool. Ghost Network. 1 second. Nope. Okay. Back to the video.
Mrs. Scott, hi.
Miss Dunham.
Oh,
I tried to
deleted
catch up
scenes.
with you at the funeral, but by the time I came around to find you,
there's
thought
deleted
you'd already
scenes.
left.
I'm sorry. Obviously, I didn't mean to.
Oh, please, don't apologize.
Wait, when is this?
I can only imagine how busy things must be. I just wanted to stop by to give you something.
Oh, it's John Scott's mother.
I remember the day that he received that for the Nadler investigation.
John's service to the Bureau meant a lot to him.
I mean, he was still, serving.
I'm sorry, I can't accept it. John and I, we didn't end on the best of terms.
Miss Dunham, my son never spoke to me about the women he saw. Not once. Until you. I believe he'd want you to have this.
He would, which is so sad.
Thank you.
Good night, dear.
Nice, I like the deleted scenes. Okay, they're from each episode. Okay, cool.
There are more things in heaven and earth than are dreamt of in your philosophy. He was right, you know. One thing, more heavens and more earths.
He was right.
That's Hamlet. Very cute. Heavens and earths. So the cylinder is from a parallel universe.
How'd you get that?
Well, that's what you're saying, isn't it, Walter?
It's not quite that simple.
No. Quantum theory is not simple at all. In fact, it takes quite a bit of brain power.
Okay, you need to translate.
Some people believe that there are an infinite amount.
Oh,
of
they
universes,
they meant
some of which
to
are nearly identical to our own, only with
talk about
all
it
of
so
us in a
early.
slightly altered state. But it's just a theory, and it can't be proven.
Huh. That's cool. I wish it had stayed. I don't know what this. I
I'm
don't
gonna say
remember.
to try not to look like a cop, but I don't think there's any chance of that.
Oh, it's where they brought the car. The car?
And no.
No, actually, I don't know what this is.
Hey.
How are you? When'd you get back?
Been a little while, but I'm kind of crazy.
She's so pretty.
Olivia, this is Tony. Tony, Olivia.
She's your friend?
Yeah, she's a friend of mine.
I'm so confused. I don't.
I just got a new one, Darby. You want to see him? He's a champion. Cost me $200.
You know what, Tony? We're a little short on time.
I don't know
today,
what Para Hungry
We're
is.
just looking for normal birds.
Sure.
All right?
Have you called my sister?
No, I've been meaning to. We've been a little busy.
You sure?
Oh.
She could use your help.
Peter backstory. Yeah, I forgot we didn't really get that in the end.
Ginger and Lola.
Oh, right, when they were tracking the... Yes. The guy with the electric powers. That's how they got the birds. That guy.
That's the new one?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah, apart from the backstory, it's a bit useless to the scene, so I get why they deleted it. Well, I guess it's not cut.
You aren't going to tell me what that was about, are you?
It's just promising to take good care of his birds.
The equation. So the Christmas lights. Just Walter getting ready. Oh my god. Aren't you supposed to, like, spit it out? Peter's... I was about to say still sleeping, but I guess not anymore.
Walter.
Oh, you're awake too, Peter.
Not by choice.
You're aware that it's the middle of the night, right?
I've decided to shift my circadian rhythm to the nocturnal cycle.
Why?
To make the nights more productive.
That's great. Could you make the nights more quiet too, please?
It's sad he
Sorry,
doesn't
son.
have a bed.
You go back to sleep. I'll try not to wake you.
Can't sleep with your hand like that.
I'll see your 5, and I'll raise your 5 more.
I think I need a loan.
Let's just dip into Walter's stash. On the house.
I can't believe he actually eats these.
I know, they're disgusting. You ever had one? It tastes like construction paper.
I know. You'd think they would have caught on. I mean, they haven't changed in the last 50 years.
Beds to you.
Oh, this is
No, you
the
go to
alternate
bed first.
scene where she
Okay,
got
I need a map.
the. She got it. Good idea. I don't remember what she got on though. Just doing a light jogging. She's like trying too much, I feel like.
Hey,
What's going on?
sorry for the surprise. We went to your apartment. Your sister told us you're out. This is Adele Nevin with German Federal Police.
Guten Abend.
They need to talk to you.
What happened?
Is this man familiar to you?
Oh.
Yes, I've met him before.
When?
About 2 months ago in a prison outside of Frankfurt. He was arrested for stealing state secrets.
We know why he was arrested. Why did you travel to Germany?
We were working a case that involved a terrorist cell called ZFT. We had reason to believe that Mr. Jones might be helpful.
Helpful how?
Someone's life was in jeopardy. They had been infected by a parasite. Jones's background is in biotechnology, genetic weapons. We connected him to
Sorry,
ZFT.
I'm trying to like reconstruct the background.
Why? Has something happened to him?
Have you had contact with Jones?
Oh yeah, this is after he disappeared from the
Your relationship with Mr.
prison.
Jones consists only of this one visit.
Ms. Nevin, I have no relationship with Mr. Jones. I questioned him one time in regard to a case that has since been shut. What's going on?
Jones escaped
When?
2 weeks ago.
So why are you coming to me? Why now?
They were trying to handle this themselves.
We have reason to believe that now Jones may be here, in the United States.
Why?
Miss
You're
Dunham,
right.
can you explain Mr. Jones' undue interest in you?
What? That.
Did he draw these? Look, I don't know what's going on. I met with him one time. I'm guessing that he didn't have many visitors. Maybe that's what it is.
He's like, yeah, sure, buddy.
He drew those pictures before you came to see him.
Wow, that's
This is really quite embarrassing because we're not ready to shoot. So I'll just sit here like an
Okay, I think we went back to the beginning. I'm gonna check, but yep. So this is the pilot. Oh yeah, we haven't seen the pilot.
Fringe evolved actually out of lots and lots of conversations over very
I forgot. 1 second.
many years between Bob and JJ and myself about the kinds of movies that we loved and the kinds of movies that sort of hooked us as kids.
We wanted to go back into doing a television show. It'd been a few years since we'd worked on a television show together, and we were
It's
all
funny how they're
fans
just
of
like, yeah, let's
various
just
things
do a
of this nature,
television
of this
show,
genre,
you know?
like Altered States and The Fly and the old Twilight Zone episode.
This particular notion was really kind of
born out of this idea of a man who had done the kinds of crazy experiments and cutting-edge scientific work that would be typical of a David Cronenberg type movie. The Frankenstein idea, but told as legitimately as possible.
I've always been a huge fan of David Cronenberg's work, and I think what really got me early on, I remember watching all of his films. What was great is his movies were always real. They were like kind of these crazy sci-fi stories, but they're all
I don't know who
kind of
that is, to be
grounded
honest.
in a reality, and the characters were always real, and the situations were always real.
So we talked and we talked, and we kind of, over the course of some time decided we could write a pilot together and came up with this idea.
That's
we all
cool.
decided collectively that it would be better not to go out and pitch it and sell it.
What do you
That what we
mean?
really wanted to do was we wanted to keep it pure. We wanted to write it amongst ourselves. We wanted to nurture it ourselves, be our own voices, not really, let too much in, so that we could deliver kind of what we'd had in our heads. And then once we were done and we had it on paper, people could weigh in and they could decide if they wanted to make the show or not.
Well, originally, the
worked.
funny part is we were only going to do an hour pilot. That was actually what sold and what we'd pitched, but you never want to just be constrained by the format of 1 hour television. And in writing it, we realized we wanted to make it kind of into a little movie.
And then we took it out and sold it to the networks.
Fox was there and they were really excited about it, and it was great, and they've been incredibly supportive since we started.
At
These
least
characters
Fox did
sort of
something right.
evolved out of a lot of loose conversations about the kinds of people that we like to put in these situations and the kinds of stories we wanted to tell.
That's
what kind
cool.
of terrorism is this? Who says it's terrorism?
A lot of it's grounded, but on the other hand, in the last 10 years, it feels like every time you go on a lot of news sites, etc., you can find that things that were just sort of imagined and used to be science fiction a few years ago,
Is real.
You'll read that in some lab somewhere in Germany, they've now uncovered a way to teleport a molecule from here to there.
That's a bit
It's almost
far-fetched,
gotten
but
to
yeah.
the point, it seems to us, when you really do your homework, that if science can imagine it, you can almost do it.
There's sort of this triptych, of
Especially in the
characters
TV
the
show.
and each one of them has a fairly significant piece missing, and an issue that they are sort of grappling with, whether they're conscious of it or not. And the way these three sort of fit together at the end of the pilot,
keep slipping.
they sort of need each other in ways they couldn't even have imagined. The show's called Fringe, and it's about cases that occur at the fringes of
Took me a while
science
to
and
know what that meant.
understood science. But more importantly, it's a show about characters. And the reason we wanted to do this series was that it was about these specific people in this world. And we knew that each of these characters were, for whatever reason, were on the fringes of society. And that we would
Like the
slowly
edge
reveal to both
in
them
this
and the audience
context?
why that was, why they were uniquely right to be at the center of this series.
We wanted to have an excuse to have characters on television who are at their most intelligent. And the idea of an Einstein character who has maybe a dark side. It really is a mix of Einstein and Frankenstein. Someone who's a genius, and obviously knowledge is great and it's exciting.
Yeah, because
but
they're
knowledge
really
is also
smart, but they
power,
can't
and knowledge
really
can be dangerous.
outsmart
much
this
of what
because it's so
compels
fantastical.
Olivia into the story and into the world. It's like a fog is being lifted in the pilot for her, and suddenly she's seeing that there's a whole world that's always been in front
See
of her
the
eyes that
mic.
she's never really known before. Our approach was, how do you get the character into that world emotionally? And
The
obviously
death.
the best way to do that is to reverse the audience's expectations. For a good part of the pilot, she's working to save the man that she loves from a chemical disease that's spreading over his body very quickly.
It's difficult for her to have a relationship because of the world that she's in, and she's out there protecting.
That's
the
why
world
she'll
from
fall
the
in love
rest
with
of us.
Peter! It's
And
gonna be
when
so
you do that much of
good!
yourself, it's very difficult to find the time to have a life and enjoy the liberties and the safety that you're protecting everybody.
And what you find out over the course of the investigation is that there's
there
maybe
you
a
go.
mole in the department, and that he may be responsible for, hurting the man that she loves. And the big twist is that, of course, the man that she loves is the mole. So her betrayal and all of the things that she's realized over the course of the investigation compel her to move forward in the series, because she is both motivated by wanting in some way revenge against being duped by this man, but also because she's realized that he is part of a bigger world that may have major consequences on us as a species. She knows that she, from a moral place, needs to be a part of the investigation every week.
I mean, it's not every week for her.
Warner Brothers saying, we want you to do it, and JJ wants you to do it, and I was just sort of like, okay, what is it? And they're like, it's kind of hard to describe. It's called Fringe, and we'll send it over. And
It was a really
you read
cool
it and
pilot.
JJ will call. It was the greatest opening I'd read, I think, in like 10 years.
We needed to find someone who was going to be a great collaborator and really understand the script from a film standpoint and a love of the genre, and Alex had all that. And he'd worked with a lot of amazing actors, so we knew he'd be good with that aspect of it.
What JJ told me when he called me was he wanted me to come on because he knew that from all the stuff I'd done on West Wing that I was a juggling character with a lot of other really complicated situations and issues. And that turned out to be very much the case on Fringe, which is that you were doing, you know, the airplane sequence, the tarmac sequence, the green screen sequence, but it was all because the script is so good, very character-based, and you're always really studying.
Yeah, they're really
the
good character
step by step
developments in
and
this
how
show.
the characters are growing and evolving and getting to know each other in an emotional way.
One of the things that Alex and Bob and I wanted desperately was to do a show that had characters that would give us opportunity for that kind of snappy dialogue and that sort of fun pace. When you
Peter's the best for that.
Shows that have done that before. Probably the best example is West Wing, which just had characters dealing with crazy stakes, racing down hallways and speaking a million miles a second. And Alex, you know, having directed, I think, 4 dozen episodes of The West Wing, was no stranger to that kind of pace, that kind of rhythm. Also with work he'd done with some genre stuff and being a fan of that kind of thing.
But nice to watch these because, you know, you never see the directors or stuff like that apart from these things. So I think it's really cool.
Is out in front of anything and everybody, and it's into everything and things you can't even imagine. And so we had to sort of create a place that is beyond current technology,
which is so weird.
Which is sort of saying something, given that we were surrounded by pretty.
It's so weird. Like Massive Dynamic is so big and it's so advanced, but the rest of the world is like normal canon, you know, like normal us, 2004. So.
It's been referred to as the pattern.
We like to invest our shows with some secrets, and the network knew that.
There's a lot of secrets in this show.
Genius advertising campaign around these symbols. We created a code using.
Oh yeah. Between scenes.
It was a code.
At the end of every act, whenever we break, there is an image. There's the apple and the butterfly and the frog and all that stuff. And there are little yellow lights in the frame with them. And depending on how many yellow lights and which image it is.
Really? That's how it is?
26 letters. So each episode spells a word that pertains to sort of the larger mythology of the show.
If you're interested in
I didn't know how
it can
that worked.
Be a more rewarding experience. And if you're not, you just experience the show as it is.
Fringe is my favorite kind of show because it takes people that you really like, that you really care about, that you want to be with and work with and know, and it puts them into the scariest situations you've ever seen in your life. And it allows there to be this kind of safety and comedy in the face of utter terror. And to me, that's sort of the greatest combination of things.
Cool. That was a big start.
That you would never know are visual effects.
The visual effects I really love are the visual effects that are really kind of grounded and you don't even realize is a visual effect.
Yeah.
The standard has become so high in television now.
But I think
have feature-like effects because audiences can see
a lot of time I can see it because I have 2020 hindsight, right?
Disgusting thing, it can be an eerie thing, but the idea of pulling this off every week on such a schedule with limited resources.
It's amazing what they're doing, yeah. But like, so most often I can see it. But it's not like ugly or anything, it's pretty good. It's just, I have 20 years of shows to compare.
Really exciting to me when I read it, and that the whole dream sequence and what was possible. And the way I saw it was just this floating, moving camera through all these different arenas in her mind. And so I realized when I sat down with the storyboard artist that the only way I could do the moves that I was seeing in my head was to put them on a platform while they were moving on the platform, rotating the platform while the camera
It's
was
cool that they
rotating around
took the
them.
time to draw her
And about
face,
halfway through the
right, in
storyboarding
these
process,
things.
started to go, God, this is really complicated.
Well, we did a previs, which was essentially a draft of the sequence, and we just did little grayscale models and just sort of got the bones of what the camera move was going to be, and we determined how big the green screen we needed, which was a 360-degree, 30 feet high.
Damn.
The entire floor was painted. We had a 25 by 30 green screen
Just
on
for
the
the,
ceiling.
is that the
This
pilot?
encompassed
Like, that's a
everything
lot
where
of
we needed to
things.
see. And then we had a movie bird crane come in, and we rigged that in a computer to move within the parameters of what that real crane could do.
She looks up and sees this kayak spinning above her, and the technocrane's going in and out, up. It was a really complicated thing to do.
I was just thinking about you. The one thing we didn't realize was that, of course, the actors were going to get dizzy, and Mark and Anna were really great troopers as we shot.
I didn't even think of that.
Stare at her, walk in a straight line, not fall down sideways, and not throw up.
Well, I couldn't stop laughing because having to walk as it's spinning and you require a little bit of balance, and it's very serious. And seeing a Mark's
didn't even
walking
think of
towards
that.
me, and all you can see are his feet like wobbling and trying to keep a straight face.
A lot of times green screen stuff, sometimes it can just seem really opaque and empty and vacuous, but this one was wild. It was kind of surreal.
You get a big giant green screen involved, and everyone expects things to look cool. And directed from Alex,
So now you have like an expectation and
it's
stuff.
not really supposed to look cool. It's supposed to be kind of beautiful, and it's a very heavily emotional scene. And so visual effects is there, but kind of trying to stay out of the way. It's all meant to be very fluid, and it starts off with confusion and moves into sort of comfort, and then it becomes cold and dangerous, and then they come together and they kiss, and it becomes bright and familiar and comforting, and then we eventually get into really tight close-ups where the background is going to be like this very, very tiny little sliver, and at that point you shouldn't be thinking about, hopefully through the whole sequence you're not even thinking about visual effects, you're just with these characters finishing this emotional arc
But
in
it's
the middle
like,
of the
it was
pilot.
really cool, that scene.
I don't know.
Oh. It's still creepy, you know?
What I thought was a really impressive visual effect was the heartworm in episode 7, because it was just terrifying and bizarre to look at.
As we started, it was going to be more, honestly, more like an alien.
Oh, really?
And then we kind of shifted away from that. We don't want it to feel extraterrestrial at all. And then it turned more into like an amoeba of some kind. And so we wanted to really shy away from all of those things that
that's
had
so
something where
creepy.
you would see it and you go, oh, I know what that is.
A lot of shows
And then
I
we
would
thought about
like
it. We
them
wanted come
to
up with
be
something that was per
animated,
the
because
writer's idea,
animated you
which is
can
this
get
idea
such
that it
cool,
constricts around victims.
like this would
And
be
so
so much
everything about the
cooler
design
animated
has that
because
in
they
mind.
would
And
have
we
so much
began
more
doing some
liberty
CG
instead of like
modeling, but had
CGI, you
some
know what I
questions
mean?
about how
So
certain pieces fit together. So I was asked to build a maquette, which we sculpted and baked in an oven. So
Oh,
a nice
a cat. I was
thing
like,
we can hand
I
around
thought you
and
said
look
a
at
cat.
and
I was like,
discuss
what
at
the
meetings.
what do you
And
mean?
then that was handed off to our computer graphics artists who are modeling that in 3D, rigging it and animating it to fit onto the heart as the heart's beating.
So what I'm doing is attaching a parasite to the heart.
Animation is awesome.
And kind of moving his little feet into position and making the heart do its pumping actions.
We actually have an actual sample of a human heartbeat that's the creature's being wrapped around. It isn't something we've created in CG, but it is something sampled from reality.
And then it's been a matter of getting the textures approved, getting the model
I think
approved,
my face
going
for
through
this
the
thing is just gonna be
process
like
of final lighting,
the entire time.
animation with all the detail.
We have our background. We bring in a little bit of flair from the foreground so that the foreground and background integrate together. A little bit of the soft edge detail, the overall cutout matte. And once that creature is animated, we send it out to render out multiple passes, which are all stacked together inside of our compositing package, and eventually spat out to your theater at home.
Yeah. I think it was good overall. There's some shots that you're like, what the fuck is that? You know? No, you're just like, it's odd, right? But
I cannot say enough about Jay and his team. He
this
gets
shot.
a script that has insanity in it, and there are some things that we've had to do, and I thought, there's no way we're gonna
pull that off.
Anytime you read a script and they actually want you to do something that large, you just got to get excited about it.
Well, at least he didn't. It would be hard to continue working.
A crane collapsed.
Yeah.
Left 3 dead, 2 dozen injured.
When we storyboarded this, we took the approach of what we could accomplish to tell our story.
We were able to do whip pans and hide things in cuts and go from actor action and whip up, and all of a sudden we're on a full CG, 100% fabricated environment. We're using stills and really amazing models.
It showed,
Chris Schollard on the day
it
was
was
able to take some
too
very
crisp.
cool reference photos. And honestly, we thought
Usually
we were gonna
that's
use them just
how
for
I can
that,
tell,
but
me
due
personally,
to the way we wanted to kind of shape the sequence after
is that
the
it
fact, we ended up
looks
using
very
them for
crisp.
background plates. On the right
Right?
side of frame is
So.
not there. I mean, there's a tree and a parking lot and nothing's there, and creating a full matte painting with a full 3D building and a crane falling into it and little bits of sparks and all of those things ended up being a really impactful shot.
Yeah, like all the people just die. Crazy. The hands. Not the hand!
Since we knew we were going to replace the screen entirely, we knew all we really had to do was shoot it live on the day, and whatever we saw there, we knew we were going to replace.
And it was a 60-second piece of these. There's some images buried within the show house of person's face, windowsills, arches, churches, very psychedelic and mesmerizing images.
Now, when it comes a little bit later and there starts being interaction with this appendage in someone's head, we needed to have something practical there on the day.
For that, we're having an actor wear a green sleeve, so we get the articulation of an actual arm, and we get sort of the physicality, which is very hard to fake, of a hand striking somebody, so that helps us sell that contact.
On our side, we started sculpting maquettes, little clay sculptures that gave us an idea what the shape we wanted, and then that was handed off to our 3D artists.
I love that, especially like these tiny moments, but there's so much that goes into it, you know?
And you've got all those motions back so that
This
when
is
the
cool.
hand is in contact, it actually connects to the boy's face. Then we can create all the light coming from the hand bouncing back off the boy.
So this is the before and after. This one on the left is the one that was shot on set. And the one on the right is after we do our 3D and compositing.
We're actually very happy with the
Very
result
cool.
because it accomplished everything we were originally
That one
designing
was
when
so
we began
creepy.
sculpting the maquettes, and carried it all the way through, and it is a rewarding feeling.
The butterflies.
Guy's being attacked by butterflies, which are just hallucinations in his mind, and they have razor sharp wings, and they're cutting him, and we see the butterflies and we don't because they're in his mind, and they, out of fear, he launches himself out of a window and crashes to his death.
I tend to like more subtle things, like in the butterfly thing, not so much the butterflies, but the actual man jumping out the window and falling down, you know, a real thing, something that's not imagined or whimsical, but an actual man falling to his death.
Feels far more elegant and makes more of a statement that is this beautiful music underlying it as he flies out the
That's
window
true,
with the
yeah, there
butterflies
was this
flying
music
against him,
in the
which actually
background.
helped the visual effects out a lot.
We actually took real butterfly specimens, of course, that they had been mounted, and are modeling from those. And we are going to make those computer-generated, animated butterflies interact with our real actor in our real location.
That's
to
really
shoot
cool.
that scene, we relied entirely on actor performance and some special effects makeup to enhance it.
It's prosthetics mixed with straight makeup over it. The first day I did this, it was 75 individual prosthetics over my entire chest and
that
arms.
takes so long.
He did a fantastic job of acting against nothing.
We shot the exterior portion last week where we had a car get imploded as the body fell on it. Now what we're doing is the sequence where he actually flies out the window.
The window that we're going through is about 4 feet wide by probably 10 feet tall, and you cannot make
I was about to say
candy
that
glass
the cuts
large.
are in the space are different,
So
but I
we are
guess like
gonna
it's the
use a
stunt
real
level. You
window,
don't need it to
tempered,
be
and we're gonna set
perfect. You
charges
just
on
flies
it so
out the
that when I
window,
hit
you know?
it, hopefully if the timing's perfect, it's already broken and I go through it.
I think this height of this stage is adequate to get what we need. We always want more. If we could have had another 15 feet, it means coming out the window he drops 25 feet instead of 10.
To make it seem like a much longer fall, we're going to be cutting together shots that we shoot against green screen against a CG replica of the building that he's falling out of.
We're looking at plates Chris Scholar and I shot from a condor of the 7 World Trade Center building. We also shot reflection plates of the building.
World Trade Center. 3, 2, 1, isn't that the Twin Towers? Was this before?
We're going to tile that as many times as we need to make the fall seem much longer.
Tell me you didn't open that door in there. Yeah, you bet I did. Get out.
Jonathan. Not Jonathan.
Experimenting on animals is a crime.
Somebody shut her up.
A monster has been unleashed that was created in a laboratory by a protege of Dr. Walter Bishop.
I didn't want it to look like a hodgepodge. I didn't want it to look like you just stuck a bunch of animal parts onto this creature. I wanted it to really feel like it could be a real animal, like it was just a mutated version of something.
We didn't really see it that much. We saw it for like one scene.
Initially, it looked more like the body of a lion or something. It seemed tougher and thicker and larger, and its face was more canine-like, but it had a squid beak and all sorts of weird stuff.
It's sort of a amalgam of bat, lion, dragon type thing. So it's sort of a genetically mutated kind of creature. So it looks cool.
We ended up actually using a prehistoric fish for part of the head ideas of what this face should look like. To have it give us some talons and then kind of this rough rhino skin.
Something like this to look very good in a short amount of time that we have to shoot it in takes a lot of coordination.
What we have to do is take as much information as we can, because we are going to have to mimic this entire environment virtually.
The chromosphere is usually taken on set as what's called a light probe, because the sphere reflects 90% of what's all around it. You can take a photograph of that and get an idea of what all the lighting is in the room.
I will light the set, and that sets the tone for the scene. And then they will create lighting on the monster that reflects my lighting here on the set.
So we're going to have to make sure that the creature has the architecture to move around and what to hang on to, and actually, acclimate himself to the space.
It's seamless, and it feels incredibly real and scary and jolting.
Because it's a large visual effects element, the monster, we had to be very conscious of when we were.
It was pretty good.
Which made us better writers, because if it were easy, we might have had.
Like, I noticed it because I was looking for it,
lost its impact. We really had to
know. It was
know
pretty good. Like this
is how many shots we have for the episode. And so we'll see a hand here and a tail here, and we really had to build the episode around those moments.
And when you see it work, it's so well done, and it cuts out right before you have time to look too closely, so you're just pulling enough to want more. And that takes a true team of artists to be able to render. So they've just done an amazing job.
Jay Worth has been the absolute hero on this show. The guy's literally had to, in one season, do more crazy stuff than most movies have in total. Whether it's
so many
creepy
things.
stuff crawling under people's skin, or things coming out of various orifices, or eyes bleeding.
I forgot about that.
Heads exploding, cranes falling, airplanes crashing, and he's at every turn has elevated the work.
It's amazing because you don't even realize you're watching visual effects, and that's what we strive to do.
Well, I guess no, because that's the big thing about this one, that that's the Twin Towers, right? That was one. On to the next one. Gene the cow.
The key to casting anyone is that when you see them, they own it.
Is that a cow?
Yeah, that's Jean. Jean is the stage name. The real cow was named Pansy.
She really
has
a unique look, and she's incredibly talented.
Here's the thing about the cow. The cow, as written in the pilot, was an Ankole Watusi, and what turned up was a cow that had a horn span of 4 feet, kind of a scrappy cow, truly ugly.
Where do you want her?
So we called the writers and said, did you intend the cow to have these 4 feet horns? They said, no, we just like the name. So we set about trying to find what is called a Bos taurus.
A what?
He wants a cow.
A really cute, spotted, domestic cow.
Get him the cow.
Fantastic, thank you.
This is so
We're in Toronto
cool.
right now, and we're with one of the stars of our show.
Pansy, like a flower.
She'll be playing Jean.
You ready for your close-up, my dear?
Like the cow so much and
Rick,
stuff.
do you have anything to tell us about Pansy?
She likes you.
I don't know if I'm zoned for a cow.
She's a heifer, not a cow, because she hasn't ever had a cow.
When they haven't been bred to produce milk yet.
She's pretty sweet.
Oh no!
That cow. Jean, she leaned over and she licked the whole back of my head and it was all matted.
You don't wear your best, that's
Oh,
for sure.
they should have kept that in. That would be funny.
Let's go back to 1, guys. I gotta get Jean reset.
I think she's getting me back because I was talking earlier about a cowlick that I had in hair and makeup and she got super offended.
Let's reset one more time and let's keep the feet away from Jean as we go too much.
They're trying not to smile.
You know, a little bit too high maintenance. She sort of milks every scene.
We moved the show from Toronto to New York. We couldn't bring the cow over the border.
Really?
So sadly, we had to recast Pansy.
No.
Second day on the set.
Canada.
She's a dairy cow. She's almost 3 years old.
What are you doing? I'm waiting for you, and I'm doing her a favor.
The cow was actually quite difficult because it's a New York cow. The Los Angeles cows are much more easy to work with. We kind of overcame that. We gave her a few more oats, and we're able to get the shot with a minimum amount of pain after a few calls to her agent.
Few calls her agent. This is hilarious. Like they just made an episode about her. Oh, I love that. I often forget about the cow as well, so. I don't know what's happening. It's a video. I can't click on things. Nope. Nope. So how's it going? Like I said, I don't know what clips I'm going when I walk into this, so I have no idea. So I got this new computer. It's really cool. I'm always frightened that something is happening. But it's really cool. Did it just reset? Okay, I think we got the gist of it.
Do you want to confess something, my son?
Because I was like, okay. But this computer has like a fan. It's a desktop, right? So it has a fan all the time. And to me, fans are when it's overheating, but I know that it's not overheating. So I'm just like constantly scared that I'm breaking my computer.
We tap mostly into this idea of thought transmission. So transmission of information by thought alone. And they try to
Research
tap into
shows
this idea of
here.
brain reading.
PhD.
It's
Nice.
extremely complicated because it's not even like thoughts occur as isolated individual units in your brain that you can try to pick that unit and that's one thought. A thought is a thought process. It's basically a neurophysiological and a mental computation process that emerges from it. We're thinking all the time.
We posited a spectrum of waves lying outside of the range of those already discovered. We hypothesized that these waves could be used to communicate information. It was a brilliant idea, a theory, but a good one.
So proud of
They
himself.
wanted to use the network to send the most clandestine information.
These kind of things like thought helmets that has been put out there in the commercial view or for military applications, they're much more limited on the information. That's, I think we're still very far away to be able to do. One interesting case that has been more and more used for military and civilian applications is what we call adaptive automation. So both for operators in the field, you can think about jet pilots, you can think about astronauts. So one of the issues that we have in persons who are operating at a certain level of stress and that their decrease on performance can cause serious problems is that the only evaluator that we have for what we call adaptive automation, so when the autopilot kicks in, so to speak, right, is based on their performance. So it's based on psychological and stress measures of performance, which means that whoever was the operator starts performing worse and the pilot system kicks in. So there's already some potential damage done until he gets recognized. So one of the things that there's a lot of investigation
Honestly,
going on,
I didn't catch that.
not
I was
have
thinking of
good markers
something
for
else.
it. But they're trying to improve it, combining different types of measures. And
But it
different
sounds cool.
factors. This idea of adaptive automation in the sense that you're going to pick up the trigger before actually the performance decreased. So if you can find neural signatures for this specific types of operations that come with, you know,
I'm a little confused.
decrease of performance before it actually happens, you can try to use that to kick in the automation before you have a decrease of performance. So that's one of the big things in the research, and it's probably a more tangible milestone right now.
You'll note that the rotary movement gives the impression of a three-dimensional tunnel when in fact it is not. Next slide, please. That's an oldie but a goodie. As you observe this image, your brain perceives first a duck.
Sorry about that.
A duck again, it always comes back to the duck. In truth, the image is neither.
And again, if we understand, in one hand, how the brain communicates, and in the other hand, how the brain devolves and structures itself throughout development, when you have these two things together.
I feel like this is when my brother tries to explain science terms to me, and I'm just like,
augmentation of cognition by, you know,
this is one of those times.
Artificial devices and so forth.
Is that
For
not
us as
interesting?
scientists,
But
one of the exciting things about science fiction is that not only it gets the whole community excited, but for us as scientists, sometimes, even as crazy as some of these ideas might seem, you might actually generate ideas within the scientific community to try to explore it. So that's part of it.
I don't remember, like, he drew that? I don't remember, like, what he saw.
You're fired. Go. Mr. Boyd! Get out of here, Meager. I don't want to see you in this building anymore. Get the hell out of here!
Yeah, I remember this. I don't know why I act surprised.
There is a group of people that has changed a person and altered his electric field. So Walter imprints a bunch of pigeons with that electromagnetic signature, and they try to track him down through that. Pigeons do have a very strong magnetic sense, as many migratory birds and other animals have. And
yeah,
that
to
magnetic
move
sense
from
helps them
north
find
to south.
It helps them to give a direction, so just a sense of direction, but it might also give them a sense of position, where they are, to identify specific magnetic fields. We don't know that for sure, but there are indications for that. And so that could be a starting point to then train them to recognize particular fields and use them in some way.
Given the strength of Mr. Meager's electromagnetic signature, plus his proximity to the tape, I have little doubt that that cassette has been imprinted with Meager's electrical signature.
It's kind of like when a film camera double exposes a picture.
So if you were to ask me, is it possible to imprint a person, there are two questions I would want to ask. One of them is, how strong would the magnetic field of that person be? And then, does that magnetic field look at all like anything that an animal would expect? And so Walter is addressing that first question. So they say we've somehow amplified the magnetic field of that person. And on the other end, it is remarkable to see how weak magnetic fields can be detected by animals, by migratory birds, pigeons, other birds. So we need to realize that they have quite remarkable capabilities. So one thing that I can tell you is it will boil down to numbers. Is the magnetic field created by that person anywhere close to the magnetic fields that birds can detect?
Yeah.
But it is certainly clear that the magnetic fields
like if it's a magnetic field that they don't recognize, they might just not go towards
something
it.
that would help us in that regard.
Pigeons contain traces of magnetite in their beaks, like hundreds of tiny compass needles. The Tesla coils will create a
artificial electromagnetic field, which I have already matched with Mr. Whatever's unique signature, and will now imprint onto the picture.
Walter mentions one of the ideas of how the magnetic compass could work.
Oh, it's not.
He talks about
Okay,
iron
it's a
crystals
theory.
in the beak, and indeed, there is an idea that birds may have something like a compass needle, really, that is working and that's moving around and that is tracked in some way. And so that idea is quite intuitive and very promising. The second idea of how the magnetic field could be perceived is that it is actually an indirect effect on light sensing, so they might actually see the magnetic field if you want.
Oh, that's
I've
very
worked on
cool.
a project where I've seen this before.
I'd love to see, like,
If
cause, like,
ever
examples
needed
we,
asking
like,
if
we're
it's
just made of
possible to
atoms,
make a
right?
human being
Everyone
track
is made of
the
atoms and
pigeons.
stuff, so, like, to see them, actually,
Homing
would be awesome.
pigeons? What possible use could that serve?
I'm sure it had something to do with the commies. It always did back then.
You can train pigeons not very well. It's sort of like a 60-40 instead of 50-50 decision. So it's not particularly good training, but it's possible. And so you could, build on that.
I don't
and
want
if
to
you
keep
maybe
yawning,
train
I'm
them
sorry.
many generations, you may be able to do this.
This is interesting.
And imprint them in some way.
Come on.
Just startle them.
I guess there's something magic about the magnetic sense. And so what has been done in this particular episode is to take an idea that is actually not far off of what we might want to do in science. But I think that process of developing the ideas, that's a very important part of science. The more boring part and the harder part is actually that you have to test it out and you have to figure out how to realize it. It's often many years of work that you have to put in. And at the end, you then realize, well, it doesn't work, but it works in a slightly different way. And usually,
I spent all this time on this and it doesn't even work.
Learn more about the next step. And that's how we progress in science.
Dad, don't get mad at me, but the windshield wipers, can you slow them down?
Slow them down?
The tempo, it's messing me up.
What I saw in the episode was the connection between the musical notes that Ben was writing and the scientists believing that there was some connection between that and a mathematical equation that some physicists were writing. Music is all mathematics.
Really?
And, this was established in the 6th century BC by Pythagoras, the famous acoustician and mathematician. I come from that world. I was an orchestrally and am an orchestrally trained composer for many years, but have been working with the computer and digital technology since the early 80s before the internet.
Music is a mathematical language. Chords have numerical values, and the notes, quarters, 8/16ths, they're all just fractions, variables.
Okay, I took the oboe for 6 months and then quit.
Almost there, Peter. Just 9 bars.
Okay, listen to this.
We do have the book Gödel Bach that talks about the connections between math and music. Most of the music that Bach wrote, the fugues and the counterpoints, are all mathematical principles based on intervallic relationships
really cool.
between the different musical lines. When you see a keyboard on a piano and the scale is divided into 12 equal parts, well, that's linear algebra. The connections are right
Honestly,
on,
I don't know
and the
enough
fact
about
that,
math to be able to
mathematics has
understand this.
always been expressed through music.
He's very talented.
Before this, he had never taken a single lesson. His doctors told me there had been other cases, people with severe brain traumas, waking up with the ability to do things they'd never done before. 2 weeks later, he was composing his own music.
I'm working on right now a quantum dot symphony. And so I'm applying a very complex mathematical principle called the time-dependent Schrödinger equation in 3D. And we're sonifying this equation and we're visualizing this equation. It's making some of the most incredible music and some of the most wonderful visual art that you could ever see. A lot of people say, well, why
I would
would
like to
a
listen to
composer
that.
want to do that? Well, what do we do?
For fun.
As artists? We unfold complex mathematical algorithms in time and space, visually and sonically, just for the aesthetic purposes of it. We're looking for structure, we're looking for function. If I have an equation that actually not only unfolds frequency and time, but also space, then you can imagine what I can do with my musical constructs.
Sure. I like that they got these experts in, because some of the stuff I like, this seems far-fetched, but then I'm like, yeah, but there's still like a base in it, you know? So I think that's cool. Oh yes, this.
We have a nucleus of material surrounded by electrons orbiting at amazing distances away.
I'm gonna get lost in this
If a
conversation, I'm
nucleus
telling you
of an atom
already.
were the size of a golf ball, the nearest electron would be a kilometer away. That's how widely spaced atoms are. So if the electron shells didn't interact with other electron orbits, then nuclei could pass right by each other, and that's what we have going on right here. There's a fundamental law of physics called the Pauli exclusion principle, which says that two electrons cannot have the same quantum states. When atoms touch, when their outer electron shells begin to overlap, electrons are starting to have the same quantum state, so they don't want to overlap. So this keeps nuclei really far from each other, and this is why most of common matter is empty space.
I'm quite envious of this.
I
What?
followed that
The robbers were
only
able to
half.
weaken the vault
Sorry, I tried to
high-frequency
put
vibrations disrupting
translate that
its
into
atomic
English and it didn't really work.
structure, allowing
I
another
only
piece of
follow
solid
half of that.
matter through it.
There we go.
In the early part of the 20th century, scientists believed that matter composed of atoms based on the Thomson model. The Thomson model proposed that the atom was
Yeah,
a
so that's why I'm a
uniform
bit
smear
silent,
of
'cause I'm just like-
positively charged material with
I don't know.
negatively charged electrons interspersed. It was called the plum pudding model.
Plum
A team
pudding,
led by
wow.
a scientist named Rutherford challenged that idea, because as scientists it's always good to challenge our fundamental assumptions. And what they wanted to do was test the nature of matter. So what they did is took a sheet of gold foil, surrounded it
Oh,
with
I've heard of
detectors,
this.
and fired a stream of alpha particles through it. They fired these
I've heard of
through,
this in
and
science
if the Thomson
class.
model had held, they would occasionally be deflected ever so slightly. What Rutherford found was that most were deflected by, about a degree, but occasionally some of the alpha particles were deflected much more. Occasionally, very rarely, they were bounced almost straight back at the detector.
Why?
That implied that the Thomson model didn't work, and what that led to was a more planetary model or a nuclear model, whereas there's a dense core of positively charged material, the nucleus, surrounded by a cloud of electrons in orbit.
Okay. So the cloud of stuff is what's bouncing back, but sometimes there's a hole in it?
Think of all the state secrets 007 could get if you could pass through walls. And it'd be cool in military applications. Imagine if you were on a warship and you had an incoming missile.
You just
turn on your
teleport it out of the
vibrator
way.
and the incoming missile
You yeet it out!
passes right through your ship. The next stage at looking at atoms and matter is looking at what composes the fundamental particle. Is there a particle of which everything is composed? Right now, science knows that relativity, which describes the very big things in the universe, and quantum mechanics, which describes the very small, don't work together. They don't quite meet.
So how does it
New
fit?
sciences like string theory and M theory are an attempt to make those two come together. And
I wonder if there's
give us
a
complete understanding
something that works
of
now,
the universe.
because it's
And
been
that
a while,
starts at the
you know?
subatomic level.
Thank you, Kevin. Hey, Kevin! That's great.
I will say this. Our friend here didn't start out this way.
I like this is not the
Change
worst
so
one.
profoundly. Basically, the DNA is going to have to be mutated. It's like the genetic code of that cell is going to have to be reprogrammed. And certainly there are things out there that can have, those sort of effects on your cells. Environmental factors such as radiation, cigarette smoke, and even the genetic parasites that we call viruses. A virus, well, at the simplest level, it's basically a piece of genetic information, either DNA, or it could be the sister molecule, RNA. if he was going to be infected with a virus, one of the viruses that can affect the most profound changes in our cells is a type of virus called a retrovirus. And what's special about a retrovirus is that unlike most types of viruses, it can actually make itself part of our genetic material.
There's
It's
a couple
scary.
different well-known retroviruses. Probably the best known is HIV. There's also other types in that class, which are feline and murine leukemia viruses. And a lot of the viruses that are responsible for causing cancer are also retroviruses.
The bitches.
So it looks here that the genes that the virus carried are starting to be expressed in Bowman.
The fact that he's bleeding from his nose is quite interesting because a lot of viruses that have a very rapid course of infection through your body, things like the hemorrhagic fever viruses, one of the things they do is they basically dysregulate your body. Your body knows it's been infected with a virus. All sorts of things, all sorts of alarm bells are going off. And one of the consequences of that is that you basically lose the ability to maintain your blood and your body fluids in the normal compartments. So you'll see bleeding from your nose and from your eyes. And that's one of the characteristics of viral diseases such as Ebola.
We got the blood work back. You were right. It is Marshall Bowman.
Anything else?
Yeah, Walter seems to think that he was dosed with some kind of designer virus.
So it was intentional.
Hard to say it was an accident. This stuff doesn't exist in nature.
So a designer virus is basically you take an existing virus and you can remove parts of that virus and replace it with genes of interest.
That's really scary.
There are lots of labs out there that are actually able to make viruses. Why would people do that? Probably the field of gene therapy best illustrates how viruses can be used for good. And
yeah, because like
basically
that's scary, bro.
Takes a virus and uses its useful traits, the fact that it can get into our bodies and deliver genetic material, and it uses those to deliver not a deadly virus, but a gene that's going to have benefit to an individual patient.
Your nose is bleeding. Can we have a box of tissues, please?
No. No, tissues won't help. Get me some sedatives. Now.
I think in the future, once the whole process is understood, once all of the genes that have been revealed through the sequencing of the human genome are understood, we'll start to really understand the genetic basis for
yeah, because we don't know everything that's on our DNA.
I think this episode, Transformation, actually, touches on quite a few really cutting-edge aspects of science. So it's talking about designer viruses, bioterrorism, gene therapy, and reprogramming cells to create different types of tissues, which is stem cell therapy.
Yeah,
so
there's
really,
a lot.
It's kind of got a lot going on.
Whatever did this had enormous
Camera!
claws, like the old bear, the big cats. Where did the digits be shaped? It's too wide for one of those creatures. Figuration closer to that of eagle. Of course, much larger.
I was like, what?
We're looking for Big Bird.
Don't be ridiculous. Perhaps a pterodactyl.
So I think when they're examining the body in the scene, they're starting to get an idea that whatever caused these injuries to the students was not your run-of-the-mill freak animal. The claw marks are huge. The fang marks are significantly larger than what you would expect from a normal animal. That might have been part of whatever genetic engineering exercise went into this, is not just mixing these animals together, but creating mutants of the mixture.
I believe we may be dealing with a transgenic species.
Which is what?
It's animal creation. An organism made up of the genes of different species. The best of the best, as it were.
I don't know if I'm wrong because they never use that term, so I'm like.
Take one animal, you will give it one gene from one other species. So, for example, you could take a mouse and you could give it a human gene.
Walter, have you got any idea what kind of animal would be in the lab
Nezu
that
from
could do this?
Boku no Hero Academia.
Judging by her wounds, I'd say 2 or 3 different ones, actually.
Right. A motley crew of lab animals got together and decided to exact their revenge on mankind.
How do you
I
make
love
a
Peter.
transgenic animal? Well, there's 2 main ways to do it. You're basically going to have to get the foreign gene, the piece of DNA, into either a fertilized egg or a very early stage embryo.
Oh.
And then once that DNA inserts
Oh, when they're born,
into
okay.
the genome of that
I thought
cell,
you just like took a living
the
and
animal that
just
is produced
but
from it,
I guess it
all
makes sense
cells
that
in
you
that
wouldn't do
animal
that.
will now
Like, how
contain
would
a
that even
foreign
work?
gene or a transgene.
I found this book among my old files.
What is this, Walter? Olivia, is this the creature?
No. But I fear it is quite similar.
Where did you get this?
I tried to make it 20 years ago.
Some of the first genetically engineered or transgenic animals that really caught the public's attention carried these sort of glow-in-the-dark genes like green fluorescent protein.
Oh, really?
And green fluorescent protein actually comes from a jellyfish.
There's been fish, monkeys, cats, and most recently pigs. In most cases,
pigs
in the past,
and
with
cats.
some of the animals that I've already mentioned, like the monkeys and the cat, only parts of their bodies have been able to been observed as glowing
That's
when
so
they're
sad.
exposed to a black light. But more recently, scientists have created whole glowing pigs, their internal organs as well as their external
That
skin.
must not be good for them.
Jeez. Whatever got to him had some pretty nasty claws.
Oh, that's a very large fangs.
What is that?
Just from the fangs of most likely some type of viper.
So this thing had the claws of a lion and the fangs of a snake?
And that would make this snake 8 feet
So
long.
it's also possible now to do transgenics with larger animals, and rather than just putting the GFP gene in, we can start to put more useful genes in. For example, there's now a good monkey model for Huntington's disease. Really? So scientists can actually start to study this disease.
I wonder
and
how this is
has on
monitored, because
behavior
this is like
and try out different.
must have killed a lot of
That's gonna
animals,
be a
and that's
really
not
useful
great.
Transgenic animal.
And there's so many applications of transgenics. I mean, we're talking about animals, but you know, everything from bacteria.
Her speech reminds me of
crops
Anya
to
from
animals
Buffy
that
Vampire
have
Slayer.
been
Like her, the way she
genetically
talks.
engineered. Pigs are especially good for xenotransplantation purposes because their organs are approximately the same size as that of a human, so it's very advantageous to study transgenics in these animals. In the case of goats that can now produce spider protein in their milk, that's for a completely different purpose. That's in the field of material science, and it can be used for all kinds of purposes, from fishing line to bulletproof vests that are incredibly light.
Huh.
Accelerated Darwinism.
Is that even possible?
In theory, yes, although one would have to solve many problems. Incompatible species, massive mutual rejection, similar to when a transplant recipient rejects a donor organ.
And there's a reason for that. Mixing a bunch of species to create a Frankenrido is unnatural and a really bad idea.
I think transgenics could go in a million different directions, and I think it's really going to be based on the imagination of the scientists. There are
but there's a lot of
crops,
ways this could go bad, you know?
Tangible problems that could be solved with this next generation science by introducing vaccines into a community through produce, or making certain crops so
I feel like that's a bit
drought or disease
stealing with their their consent, but sure.
So I think it was kind of interesting the way this episode actually did bring to the forefront the whole idea of making transgenic animals and chimeric species. And I think Walter clearly understands that
I
what
like
you're trying
this
to do
spider
is take
snake. It's
a
very
unique trait
creepy.
from one animal and insert it into another one. So it's not really just a case of kind of mixing it all together to make a stew. But what you're doing is you're going out there looking for the traits you want, and if they're not in your animal or your species that you're interested in, you have the whole of the planet to go fishing in.
My name's Bob Orsi, along with J.J. Abrams and my old high school buddy. Hey, everybody out there. Serious snow, which hopefully will add some serious production value.
Seriously?
All right, we are set and action!
Part of the fun of the show is...
Hey, everybody out there. My name's Bob Orsi, along with J.J. Abrams and my old high school buddy Alex Kurtzman. We are the writers of
There were some technical issues, but we're here.
We're here in Toronto.
I'm filming this in 3 parts because I don't want my computer to die.
What's going to be about a 2-month shooting schedule.
Oh, 2 months.
People here in Toronto call this moderate weather. It's 1 degree, but apparently this is very warm for this time of year. And tonight we're expecting serious snow, which hopefully will add some serious production value to everything.
What?
The scene we're shooting here is one of the first moments where
time
our
is it,
characters,
like,
Olivia and
what month?
John, start to realize that maybe they're not simply on a normal national security case, and maybe it's taking them into the fringe.
I mean, John knew about it already. I think.
Often you want to start early in the shoot with some of the bigger stunts and some of the more difficult things.
Oh, really?
Sometimes it's more fun, and it gets everybody together, and it gets everybody kind of like jump right into the workout.
That's cool to know.
Essentially, they're going to blow up these labs, and what has to happen is a fire has to come out with burning debris.
That was very English Canadian.
They're all subsonic explosions, so that they'll be loud, but they won't be really loud.
Oof.
We're also lucky to be here with our director, Alex Graves. This is our genius director, Alex Graves, and our genius actor, Mark Valley.
Orsi told me that, well, I don't want to get in between this with you, right?
He keeps trying to change the ending. They both keep trying to change the ending, and
really?
to favor, obviously, their various strengths. They're getting ready right now to start what's going to be one of our, hopefully, feature quality foot chases.
That's
one of the things we've always tried to do in all the shows that we do is to not treat it like a TV show, but treat it very much as a feature. And that's why this is a 2-hour pilot instead of 1 hour. And it's why we're jumping right
yeah, it
into
was an
stunts,
hour
making sure that we have the time
58
and,
or something.
The wherewithal to do them
That's
right.
fucking long.
We're actually going to start
And I didn't
running
know.
in the middle of what might be a snowstorm.
So when I started it, I was like,
prepare for something like that.
Are you kidding me?
I stretch out. And then I have a lot of brothers, so I think about them chasing me. I think that's going to be a real challenge. Is that I have to, well, I don't know if we can talk about it.
Yes, you can. This is going to be on the DVD. Right? We can say anything, right?
I'm going to dial. Not only am I going to run and dodge and do all these things, but I'm actually going to be able to dial and run and not look. That's going to be the real skill.
That is the equivalent of running and chewing gum. Actually, it's a lot harder, isn't it?
So he's gonna have to dial a phone at the same time.
Some people say that you can look a little odd when you run. You have to run correctly for camera. So do you have a theory about that?
Yeah, I generally try to keep my hands attached to my thighs.
Did you
like
read an
this.
entire script before you actually jumped onto this, or did, as usual with all the secrecy, you were just told, will you please do it, show up in Canada, you got on a plane, here you are?
Are we in Canada? Where are we? I was gagged and blindfolded, and I came out somewhere, and people kept saying a boot. So
Kidnapping.
I think we're in Canada.
A boot. Wow.
So I hadn't read the whole thing.
No, really?
No, I hadn't read the whole. I don't think I could read the whole thing.
Now that shows you the level of trust that we get from some fine folks like Jason here, who's willing to come out here and... Have you read it now?
Yes, of course.
Yeah,
I read it now. It's very good. Have you read it?
Do you have notes?
No.
Have you read it? He says to the writer.
I get to have, well, now you know. I get to have a plane crash. I get to throw up on somebody. I get to pull my face off.
Oh yeah, because it's like a twin, but still,
Studio
it's...
and the network. Why don't you talk about how excited you are to be here in Toronto?
I'm so excited to be freezing in Toronto with Bob Orsi and Alex Graves.
Let it never be said that the network and the studio don't get along. As you can see, they're smiling, they're sitting very close together, you know, they're laughing.
We are, we're laughing.
I think they've been drinking.
Not yet. That'll be at 3 a.m.
I love behind the scenes. It's cool to see
So hopefully
all
you can
the
see
other
from
people.
The bags under my eyes that we're here in the thick of it, of Fringe. I think we're about a week in. It's midnight already. And it's my great pleasure to introduce you, Mr. Brian Burke, our other executive producer.
Hi, America.
He just got in just 48 hours ago from 80-degree weather in Los Angeles, and he was very surprised to find out that there's
It's fucking
snow.
cold here, yeah.
How are you doing with the snow?
Nobody told me. No one told me. I'm in Toronto.
I think the date flashed, but I didn't pay attention to it.
Seriously, I want to kill myself. I mean, I love Toronto, but it's not in February.
February.
Welcome to Toronto. This is where it's all happening.
Can planes fly in this?
That's... Of course they can.
Chilly out here in Toronto.
Well, sometimes there's too much storm,
This is Fringe.
but...
This is our new world. This is where it's going to happen. This is where crazy things happen. And
You know, 3 hours ago, none of this snow was here.
none of this. None of this.
Yeah, it's
It's
typical.
supposed to be doubling for Hawaii, so I don't know what we're going to do.
I mean, it's not just
Hopefully Bob
Canada,
can get out
but...
We're in the cafeteria of the Guelph prison, which is serving as our insane asylum where
Whoa.
we find Walter. And it's actually
It's a prison.
This is the first
I'm
day
not
that
surprised.
Josh Jackson is working. He actually only got here 2 days ago. We really went right down to the wire to get him. Josh, you have a visitor. Come on out.
Thanks, they kept me in there for weeks. How are you? I'm good.
So this is your first day on the shoot, isn't it?
Yeah, they keep me in my box until I'm allowed to come out and work.
It's like, go ahead.
You came down here like 2 days ago.
Yeah.
And it was very unsure whether or not you actually were going to agree to do this, weren't you?
I like the way you phrase that because it makes it seem like I was in control, so I'm not going to argue with you, but yeah, I came right down to the wire.
Now, it's been said that television can feel like prison. Why do you think they say that?
I don't know, really. It's kind of all wine and roses here on this set, and
I've
every
never
once in a while they
seen
let me
him
out of my
before,
box
so I don't know what else he's in.
Now, is it
I don't
difficult to
remember
jump
from
in
his like
knowing
about
that
info.
Your life is going to go one way 3 days ago, and now you're literally going to move to Canada for a television show. Is that oh yeah.
I wonder if they're like
Oh, yeah,
they get
yeah.
paid
If we're
hotels.
lucky and it goes, we might actually have to be on it more than just the pilot. Is that a difficult adjustment? Yeah.
Well, I'm Canadian, so the move back to Canada is not so bad for me.
Wait, you're Canadian?
It's for you guys. It's going to be a bit of a shock.
Wait, hold on. You're Canadian?
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
He is Canadian. Oh, that's so cool though.
Yeah, just appreciate it. Anytime you want to drop by, get
Sure.
a little.
And are you hungry? Do you need anything?
Yeah, just gruel.
Great. Okay.
Bread, water.
I love that's so nice.
Bye.
See ya.
Come back soon.
This is a scene where he meets his father right here behind me, and
He's
this is the
like-
first time that our trio is working together. And you can see also that our production designer, Carol Spear, is someone we really admire from her work with Cronenberg. She's added these amazing tables and painted these columns to give it the feel of not exactly a so friendly insane asylum where Dr. Walter Bishop has been for 17 years. I don't know if you can see down there, but we actually have this hallway lit for daylight, even though it's actually already nighttime outside. This is one of the amazing talents of our director of photography, Michael Bonvillain, who
Imagine being around there. You're like, what the fuck is that?
as well. Obviously, the reason we have to do that is because here in Toronto, we only have about 8 hours of daylight, and our typical day is about 13 hours. And, you know, the reason we're all still wearing coats inside is because today it got to a low of 27 below zero with the wind chill,
Yeah.
27 below.
That's
So even
cool,
though we're
all right.
in the walls, it's still freaking cold. The scene we're about to shoot here is the scene where finally Dr. Walter Bishop is released, and he and his son and Olivia exit, and Dr. Walter Bishop gets to see daylight for the first time in 17 years, and let's just hope he behaves
I
himself.
mean, pre-daylight. He must have seen it before. It looks so complicated, like
We're
organizing a
behind the
TV
scenes
show because
now,
you need
so
so
if
many
they would
people.
Let me in. If you can see behind me here, we have an amazing new makeup effect that I've never heard of before, where instead of relying on anything like green screen or CGI,
Just like
the effect of the flesh being see-through and of our characters actually melting is applied through a tattoo.
Oh, it's the
How does it feel?
pilot.
I told him it feels like I'm wearing frownies. You know what frownies are?
I don't.
Well, it's a thing from the 50s to keep from wrinkling. It's a new Botox. It's all the rage. The thing is, when I get off of a plane and when I go to a set, I need a skincare system like reactive. It keeps my skin, it takes my epidermis down past the pore level
With
and
all the
right down to the
colors?
fleshy matter. I find it dead sexy.
This is going to be an amazing effect, and that it's extremely practical. You know, a lot of the things that we love to do. This is something we've learned on Star Trek and on Alias and with J.J. Abrams, just to make.
I forgot he was on Star Trek. I was like,
possible.
Star Trek? What do you mean?
On green screen or on any kind of, you know, you want things to feel real and not like they're just.
How can you keep talking like
you know,
this?
out of the blue.
I would just be so distracted.
Hi, I'm Bob Worsey. You might know me from such short DVD extra clips as
Oh
Fringe Day
no,
1,
they had
Fringe
2
Day 2, and
months
Fringe Day
to
3.
do
And here we're standing in what
just
we are
a
literally
pilot?
calling Kevin's Folly. Kevin
Goddamn.
Millet, our amazing visual effects
Goddamn.
supervisor who worked with on Alias.
I
Set up
keep
this
just
amazing,
looking at me because I'm like, man,
gigantic,
is it me or
feature-quality,
it's super
feature-sized
crisp?
green
I don't know.
screen room.
I
What
don't
we're
know.
shooting here today is the dream sequence. This is not a normal dream sequence. This is a dream sequence where Olivia is going to synchronize her brain waves with her lover, John Scott, so that she can get information from him even though he's in a coma. We try to make things as practical as possible, but some things you want the option to really get as crazy as you want to get and really make the dream feel as abstract and as beautiful as possible.
It was very good. It was a very good first episode. how far we've come from sitting over there
I wanted to introduce you to a little
to
something
here.
called sides.
I'm gonna get a new
Sides
mic.
are a summary
It's gonna be nice.
of what we're going to be shooting every day, and it basically contains all the information you need to know for the day's work. And here you see on the first page, it tells you the exact scenes that are going to be shot,
Huh.
including scene numbers.
That looks
and then it lists everyone in the cast.
like an Excel file that I don't get.
And it's basically everything we're going to need. It's truly a snapshot, and there's a true art to putting this together. It's a snapshot of everything you'd ever need, and that's what they say when they refer to sides.
I want to do that. That's so cool. Ow.
So here we are on day, I don't even remember what day it is anymore because it's been so many days.
44.
The actual principal photography
Oh,
is done. 3 times
it's
as long
over.
as your average pilot, and certainly 3 or 4 times as long as your average weekly show. Everyone survived, and we're actually back from the 30 below temperatures of Toronto, and we're here in the production offices in LA. Say that any
Must be nice.
show goes through 3 rewrites. The first time is the actual script, the second time is when it's directed, and the third time is editing. And that's what we're doing now. Follow me.
44, 31.
This is where the final stages of the pilot will be put together. This is where it's going to be, you know, we have probably 3 hours of footage. It's going to be edited right here until we have it down to whatever the network wants. I think it's about an hour and 40 minutes that we need with commercials, etc. And in a way, this is where it all finally comes together. We'll put the music on top of this. Any additional dialogue that has to be put on can be recorded here temporarily, and then it can go out to the actors to do in a soundstage, to do it nicely. And you know, if we're
That's
lucky,
really cool.
Fox picks up the show, and we get to do 20, 21 more of these. And if not, it's been a pleasure. I hope if it does.
Dude, it's gonna be like 5 seasons. You're good.
And if you don't, then I'll just watch it over and over myself. Thank you.
$418. Nice. It's not done. I'm just stretching and yawning. You apparently that's your thing.
And the suspect who might have those answers.
Casting! Oh, nice.
The only one who saw his face. So how long does he have left?
Anna Torv, and I'm playing Olivia Dunham.
I'm Kirk Acevedo, and I play Charlie Francis.
He forgot for a second.
Agent said, "What is this, and how can I be part of it?"
It's so weird to hear Olivia
The
with an
casting director
accent.
takes the script and breaks down the characters and begins to put some names together to see if it can fit the vision of the director and the producers and writers.
Cool.
Casting pilots is always really difficult because unless you are writing a pilot for an actor already in mind or an actor already attached to the idea, you have characters in your head and then you suddenly see those characters interpreted through thousands of people, and that can be overwhelming. Sometimes bringing something to your dialogue that you actually didn't even realize was there, and sometimes they massacre your dialogue. and it's a very strange thing to see both of those things happen.
The key to casting anyone is that when you see them, they own it. It's not a question of even casting, it's a question of
It's their character.
hopefully and luckily finding the person who just claims the role.
The thing that's really amazing about our cast is that each one of them in their own way walked into the room and they were their characters.
What we were looking for in Olivia was a woman who was believable as an FBI agent, but yet had some vulnerability and definitely had depth and a history behind her eyes.
Anna was the miracle of the whole thing.
We saw a lot of people for this.
We were sent an audition from Australia of Anna that she
Oh,
did for another
Australian.
project, and
Okay.
she's reading for a movie, and we were immediately intrigued.
April had talked to, I think, a friend of hers down in Australia, and they had pulled Anna in from a camping trip.
I got a phone call saying, "Can you come in the next day?"
Somebody got through to her on a phone. She came in and read our scenes over the internet.
The next day I got a call saying, "You got the job," and then I flew the next day to
That's really
LA
fast.
for a morning and then straight to Toronto, and I'm here.
What Anna brings to the
That's what the
project
accent is.
she comes into the world of Fringe with all of its edge and mystery, and she brings this sort of elegance and poise to it that makes you just love her and want to make sure she's okay and gets through it.
Although this is a joint task force, you are all now
Lance
reporting
Reddick,
to the Department of Homeland
rest in
Security.
peace.
I'm Special Agent in Charge, Broyles. Originally had me read for Charlie,
Oh, really?
who Kirk Acevedo was playing.
Flight out of Hamburg, 147 passengers. Towers lost contact 3 hours in.
When I originally read the script, I thought, the role for me in this script is Broyles. And when I went to my original audition, the casting director came out and she said to me, you're here for Broyles, right? I said, well, no, I'm here for this other role. She said, oh, no, I thought you'd make a great Broyles. Well, you want to read for Broyles? And I said, well, yeah.
A man who serves his country for 30 years as a few drinks and a small lapse in judgment does not deserve 5 years.
A small lapse in judgment that will haunt 3 young women for the rest of their lives.
But that's not tonight's business, is it?
He's so good.
We read him for Broyles, and in fact, he was right. Because he has this quiet strength about him.
Yeah,
that
he's just
hardly doing
it's
anything,
good.
Just by the look in his face, and he has such a magnificent face, conveys that authority and power.
I want you to extend the perimeter outside the tunnel another 50 yards.
We had a lot of really good people come in for Broyles, and we were talking about other people, and Lance kind of came in and shattered that confidence. And was just like,
let the pros handle this.
Steve Broyles.
Interagency harmony and cooperation continues.
Who's winning?
Langley by a nose.
4 years ago, I get an audition.
4.
This TV show. So I'm like, well, what's it about? And it's like, oh, it's about this plane that crashes on an island. And I was like, I don't want to audition for Gilligan's Island. So
That's on like Lost.
on the audition. So now when I get the audition for
Oh my god, wait, did he audition for Lost? Oh, that would have been so
This
cool.
great actor moving around films. We're just lucky to have him.
I actually originally read for Peter, and
Oh.
no, Kirk is Charlie. So I went back in, auditioned for Charlie, and then thus Charlie Francis.
That's cool.
Place locked down.
He has a great soul and so many layers to him in any scene. With
They were
anyone,
all
and
very
kind of
good
feel
actors.
chemistry together as sort of
They all chose
friends,
very
and
well.
He gives you an emotional base to know that she's got somebody she can count on. And
Yeah, he's like he's the best friend, and like there's no. I like that there's no love interest between them.
Almost as many, in a way, as we had Olivia, because she had to fulfill a very particular position. One where she wasn't the lead, but she was a very important part of the team. So you wanted someone who clearly had the intelligence, but you definitely wanted someone who had a lighter tone.
It was a Friday, and they called me about an hour before they needed me to come to the casting office in New York City.
Jessica came in and read and was immediately able to handle sort of the language and the pace. And you could also tell she was so adept at sort of immediately plugging into Walter and kind of what he needed and sort of taking care of him.
Hey, Astrid, would you mind
watching Walter? Yeah, I'm on that too.
No.
She's awesome.
I'm going to repeat
That's the best
demonstration
scene.
with the rice. Would you care to watch?
Nope.
Okay.
If
Okay.
you choose to drag our company and Dr. Bell's name into this matter, you will be hearing from our attorneys.
I was sent a script, and I'm not sure that the cover page was on it. And you know, actors, if you're fortunate, get to read a lot of scripts, and I was completely taken by this script.
Unfortunately, I am not at liberty to discuss our companies, their research, or our employees. The security of our proprietary information is a very serious concern.
When she read it, she wanted to come in for it. I was very surprised. I spoke to Meg Simon, who's the casting director in New York. When I heard that Blair was on tape, I was amazed. And honestly, I didn't remember the Altered States connection until much later. She just gave the best.
I don't know what that
read.
is.
Growing up, I was a huge fan of Altered States, and it had really had an impact on me, and I'd seen it a bunch of times. In watching Altered States now, all these years later, as much as you remember that William Hurt was brilliant in the movie, Blair Brown's contribution to that film is enormous as like the grounded, brilliant wife, and her performance is incredible in that film.
The robotic assist tools that were used in my surgery, the drugs I took afterwards, were developed and manufactured by Massive Dynamic.
We all couldn't believe that the wife
She
of
wanted
Altered
to
States,
go.
which is sort of the older parent to this project, was our Nina.
This phase of their choice of therapies has
It's okay.
It's okay. That's good. It's got consequences.
For Walter, we were looking for somebody who could play this very large role that
Yeah,
ranged from
like,
over-medicated madman in an asylum
my
to a...
the reason I started Fringe is because my mom really likes it, and when I talked, because I think it was, I said, oh, people recommend this to me. She's like, you have to watch this, it's really good. So I did, and my parents watched it together, and I remember all my dad remembers of Fringe is Walter. He thought he was the main character because he watched it when he came out, right? So it's been a long time. So he was like, "Oh, like he's the main character, right?" I'm like, "No, he's not. It's Olivia." He's like, "Who's Olivia again?" Like I just need Walter had such a big impact on the show that to my dad, that's all he remembers, and I think that's really cool. Even though I'm sad for Olivia because she's badass, but
inspired genius who'd been in prison for the last 10 years and was completely out of touch, both with society and potentially reality.
We had so many different wonderful actors reading it, and some people played him very drugged out. But what John Noble did that was so fabulous is that he almost had a humor about what he had gone through, and then would go into periods where he had lost the thread. So it was an amazing read.
Yeah.
I think when it first came about, I was considered to be too young for it. But
really,
this role I really want.
There was a tell line for me, which is the pudding line.
What is it?
It's just they serve this dreadful pudding here, butterscotch pudding on Mondays. It's horrible. Just occurred to me.
It's Thursday.
Oh, okay, well that's fabulous.
For some reason, because he had a different way of hitting it, that to me went, oh my God.
He's Dr. Frankenstein, but he's sort of Dr. Frankenstein.
But he has a humor and he has morality,
One of the great benefits of having a lead character who has been established to have been clinically insane for part of his life is that you don't know exactly when you're coming in and out of his point of view. Most of the problems on the show have sprung from his mind that could be taken to an extreme conclusion.
We try to get the best actors for the part who are going to bring something special, and that's who it ends up being.
But it's ultimately incredibly rewarding when you find your people and you put them together, because you have this amazing package and you have these people who have only lived in your head who are now living in physical reality and bringing life to your characters, and there's nothing better than that.
The cast is an amazing group, and that just is a very lucky thing.
That's really cool. It's really cool. I like to see how they got casted. It's really interesting. And you find out more about the characters as well.
Alright, we are set and action!
Part of the fun of the show is having extraordinary things happen to people that you relate to and feel more or less ordinary.
One of the things we really want to do in Fringe is to really explore where science and reality ends.
Anytime you try to reinvent television, which this show clearly is doing, it's a massive undertaking, but it's also the most fun you can have.
Yeah, I think people were saying that Fringe started a lot of science fiction shows.
This is a very ambitious pilot.
It really starts like Lost, which is crazy.
This is the opening of the entire piece of the 2-hour pilot. And it takes place on a flight from Germany to Boston. And we have to make this one of the scariest flights you've ever seen. But what happens on this
Very
plane
scary.
is that a toxin is released, a contagion, through one of the passengers, who we call Trouble in the script. And it ends up infecting the entire plane. So this is kind of a fun day because we have to be in a controlled space, and it allows us to really make it as detailed and as terrifying as we can make it. We have a lot of extras, we have a lot of players in here, and there's a ton of makeup effects.
One of the elements of the pilot has
So creepy.
characters going through a fairly horrific physical transformation, and so we were really lucky to get some incredibly talented...
an hour 48 of a pilot is so long.
Collaboration between
like,
makeup and visual
oh my
effects
gosh.
is a huge part of the show from the first day. I mean, I remember sitting down with Gordon Smith to chat about the process of the melting flesh, and it was 5 hours.
The job was to create 20 bodies that had been completely gone clear.
That's a lot.
And dissolved back to almost a skeletal structure. So we only had 4 weeks and no access to any actors. But due to the nature of the thing, we had to invent the whole technology for this particular stunt.
Damn.
We suggested a solution of using what I call photographic prosthetic.
What they're doing is they're printing out what is essentially like a temporary tattoo and applying it to the body, and then putting makeup application on top of that.
You had the tattoos, which really gave definition of the internal underlayer beneath the skin of a human being, and then
I would
visual
love to
effects
be
can
an
sort of
extra in a
animate the movement
movie
that's
or a
sort of
pilot or
inherent
something. That would be
when the
really
veins
cool,
are
I
actually
think.
working and the flesh is
Like even
adjusting
like,
to the
oh
breathing,
god,
and I think
even
the
in
work
a
that's being done is
non-speaking
cutting edge.
role.
It's really good.
In the airplane set, we welded together a huge metal frame
Oh, wow.
that came apart in 10-foot sections, then clad it with all the existing plane parts. So you can move business class from one end of the plane to the other, you can move the galleys around.
Well, with all plane sets, it's always a little tough because you have very small windows, but when we did it on the pilot, we actually were in nights. And so for that, we had to completely rewire the entire plane, so every single individual light was on its own dimming cube. And then on the day, it was a very complex series of lighting cues just to add dramatic effect.
It sounds
we
very...
had 2 stunt performers, and we had 2 air ratchet systems. We came and did rehearsals to find out our pressure, how much pressure we need to jerk them up and then to drop them, because Alex, the director, wanted people to hit the ceiling and drop right away without a deceleration. But doing it in such tight quarters, we wanted to be able to control them.
Also, they don't die. That would be great, you know.
Actually vary the acceleration and the deceleration, so when they did actually hit the ground, we were just decelerating and taking off the last little end of the impact.
We just really went for creating a large-scale event because it's Fringe. It's got to be so big that you can't imagine this happen on this plane.
We're on a tarmac in an airport, and we have a giant 747 flown in from Florida specifically for us for 2 days.
It was a charter 747.
They actually took a...
by the U.S. government to fly
no shit,
troops
took
in
a
and
real
out of
plane.
Iraq.
There was always the danger that we would lose the plane as well, because there was always the chance that troops would be called up. Obviously, that has...
Oh, I was like, how do you lose a plane?
You also are on a schedule.
And we were on pins and needles for 2 days that any second that plane was going to fly away.
So everyone's watching, hoping that it's a good day in the Middle East. And it all kind of worked out.
We were really trying to get that post 9/11 FBI universe going.
We have at least 50 vehicles, fire trucks, police cars, CDC trucks, ambulances.
Unbelievable. Lights going and sirens going. That was pretty fun. I've never done anything like that before. That was pretty fun, walking on that deck. My God, this is enormous. And it's the start of the show, too.
It was 40 below that night. Both nights, 40 below. And
That's really
not only that,
cold.
it was so cold that even with all those layers on, they made us stop every 2 hours because they were afraid the crew was going to get frostbite.
We were walking
Fair.
around wrapped up like Eskimos, yelling through our hoods, covering our faces, and there were a lot of, what?
And Kirk's got this gigantic monologue, so we're out there and we roll on it. And Kirk starts talking and he's animated, and all of a sudden, halfway through the scene, we couldn't understand a word he was saying. And he can't move his mouth. And literally, his lips froze, and he could not move his mouth.
Oh
So
no.
everything was a challenge that night.
Yeah, but in the pilot, you can't hear shit.
No signs of life aboard the jet.
The hazmat sequence entering the airplanes was sort of a mini homage to Alien for me, and just sort of that entering the spaceship feeling and mood. And
I know what they're talking about now.
Dark, and planes are usually so bright that you can't make them dark. So I came up with just painting the entire interior of the plane with a dark fungus, so that it would just knock out all the light and really make it a.
It was
haunted
very
house.
creepy.
They sprayed this awful mix of black paint all over this airplane. And we had actually picked only certain areas we were going to spray. And they sprayed the entire inside of that airplane, ceilings, floors, walls, seats, everything.
We had to lay plastic all over the floor because we put gelatin and Jell-O all over the floor for goo.
You keep thinking, oh, this week, you know, it's a bit weird. But then the next week's the tank, and then you've got melting flesh, and it just sort of, there's no talking scenes. There's no, oh, easy, great, just you and me, and we'll do a scene.
We were told that there was this great prison location, there was an abandoned prison in a town called Guelph. And what we didn't count on was that Toronto was about to have its worst winter in 100 years.
I'm born and raised in Los Angeles. You arrive in Toronto, and the first guy to meet me there was like, hey, it's pretty cold, eh? And you know you are in big trouble when one of the natives tells you it's cold.
We were literally
That's
in a blizzard
minus
with
27.
potato chip-sized
Like
snowflakes
I think
that were like smacking
20
us in
minus
the
27
face, and it
is
was sort of
like
welcome to Fringe.
it's fucking cold, but it's not the end of the world. But
texture, a lot of foreground,
like when it's 40,
snow,
fuck, it's
wind,
cold.
smoke, steam.
It's
just
been a
for the
while
exterior
though. I
stuff,
think
it was
because
really,
of
really
climate
cold,
change,
which helped us a
or
lot.
probably
It was
other
freezing, it was
issues. But
-35 degrees and so windy. Josh keeps
in the
laughing 'cause there's this
last
scene with the doctor where she comes
winters, couple winters,
out
it's not
of the
been that
prison and
cold.
He says, "Excuse me, would you mind coming back inside with me?" And I have to say, why would I want to do that?
And I'll never forget Anna standing out front in that cold that just stings your face, covering it all up and
And
just
she
giving a
has
great
to-
performance in the middle of it all.
When it was insane, you couldn't see anything. I couldn't feel my face. I have never been so cold.
Oh.
No fancy coat, there's no fiber yet created that keeps that kind of cold out, and everything hurts and it's just teeth chatteringly cold.
There was a foot chase in the script, and when we were on our way back from our first scout, the location manager said, "I want to show you this building," and there was this great building with these fire escapes and this rooftop.
That was tricky because what happened was we started getting really bad weather here. The roof was getting very slippery.
Oh,
and
no.
the day we came to rig it and pre-rig it and rehearse, we had a blizzard. It was really, really bad.
Another problem because of the weather, because we were running across the tops of very old brick buildings and parts of the roofs were rotted. And to get up there, you had to go up a rickety
Oh god, I would be so scared to fall. I mean, I guess that's why there's wires and like stunt coordinators, but still.
Re-welded because half of the rungs were broken.
Safety first. Safety under winter conditions is the most important thing.
We did tests with the stunt people. That also was hard because we had them running in one shot, jumping to a fire escape on the other side. That was, maybe 10 feet below a takeoff roof, and they were hitting off the wall and then hitting the railing, and then they had to continue to run in the shot.
Ow.
So it was a tricky rig.
That
It
looked
wasn't just a
like
matter of
it hurt.
safetying a person on a cable. We had to again let them run and jump free. Then we had to decelerate, and honestly, it took a lot of trial and error to get it just right.
Oh, they hadn't even moved the rope
From
in.
like the top of the veranda and landing on these garbage bins and falling, and I literally had to just roll over, get up, and like run and hold a gun in Stig's face, and I managed to fall over about 5 times.
No!
And everybody
That's
really
hilarious.
came in, and it just shows how well the crew worked together, and we did this great
But
sequence.
I would have done the same.
I really started to like the idea that she was so determined to catch this guy who had done this to all these people and the love of her life, that she was just diving off buildings to get to him and didn't care if she broke a leg or anything, and that it was just without thought.
Let's go,
I think it's all the
Peter!
cool Spider-Man stuff. I just do a lot of running. I'm chasing, and then she's up on the rooftops, jumping from building to building, looking much more badass than me.
I'm the agent. That's fair.
Done. Agent ID 52776 in pursuit of blue SUV. Heading south on Fenway.
That was, I think, the most badass moment that she
After
just
huge sequence number
snapped
20
back
was
after the
car
betrayal.
chase. And we
Like,
were basically
that
just
was
trying to create a
so
great
badass.
crescendo to the 90-minute pilot.
We had tons of stunt people and police everywhere, and we were shutting down one of the biggest intersections in Toronto for this stunt sequence.
Oh
We were trying to do
no,
something
that's so
different
annoying.
Because we only had one stunt car prepped for that. It wasn't like having 2 backup cars. If we screwed up once or made a mistake, we could go to the second car and do it another time. And we had a lot of problems. I mean, the weather was so bad. The weekend before, we had a major blizzard here, and the cars had no control. There's no traction. Our stunt driver, Jamie Jones, he was really pumped and set on what he was going to do. The driver had all his knee pads, 5-point harness, fire
Damn.
suit. The car was totally prepped, of course, with roll cages, fuel cells, Lexan in the windshields.
And he sort of just prepped, went up and down the ramp a few times, got the speed right, and then I asked him after, and he said he sort of went and had a little prayer. His family were there, and then go.
Oh god. I can't imagine being a stunt. Like, that would be so scary. I mean, you have to be an adrenaline junkie for that shit.
Incredible, hit his mark. Like, hit his mark.
To see a total stunt like that without any visual effects or special effects.
Yeah.
I mean, it was pretty much a clean stunt, and he just did an amazing job. And to me, that's the big thing. That's one thing that really stands out about the show.
It was just perfect. It's a work of art. I mean, just top to bottom.
We got it, and they got their aftermath on the same location.
It looks like such chaos to the outside. And then it's quiet, magic gets done, and it's like, get on to the next thing.
the show got finished, Toronto was amazing. So when it came time and it got picked up, I was actually kind of excited to go to Toronto and shoot. At the last
Nice.
possible second, New York passed the 35% rebate.
The
And
what?
then all of a sudden, it became cost effective to bring the show down to the United States.
Anything is
Oh,
a big daunting
it became
thing,
less
and let alone
expensive to go to
moving
New
from
York?
Toronto to New York, where we started over with a brand new crew.
I don't know. Oh, like a whole new crew. Oh God.
In episode 103, they had a challenging location which involved a tunnel that they needed vehicles to come in and out of.
What we're doing right now is we're blocking off this whole section right here. We have NYPD coming in. We reserved the tunnel for 8 o'clock. We're going to have it till about 6 in the morning. And this is all going to be closed down. We're about to go into our...
Everyone being like, what the fuck is going on? Well, I guess if it's in New York, they're used to it.
Manhattan to close down a tunnel is extremely demanding on the locations department. I do know that they had to look at a number of different locations, and they settled on this tunnel near the UN on the east side of Manhattan.
And it was an interesting challenge because we were shooting.
I don't know
at
who
night
that
trying
is,
to make
where
it
that
look
is.
like day,
I mean,
and we
in
had
the
never
New
seen
York
the
State.
location. We literally showed up sight unseen and had to create this massive setup in a matter of hours.
By the time you get all the stuff in here and all the lights and everything, you have very little time to actually shoot, and we have to shoot 3 scenes in here. On a feature, we'd have a week, and here we have 8 or 9 hours to do it. So
Oh,
we're
God.
trying to race against the clock to see if we can get it.
It's horrible.
I didn't even think of that.
Trapped in amber.
We're in the Brooklyn Navy Yard, and this is the end result of our bus scene.
We have all of our forensics team, and we have our actors who are here examining the bodies that have been pulled out of the bus. So these poor folks are being gooed up with all this gooey material.
Oh,
And
no.
we're showing them as the victims of the crash.
We got this ultra ice material we're using to try to encase these people in jelly or ice, however we're calling it right now. And it's just
Yeah, in the, I think one of them was like we could see them breathing and stuff.
we're covering these people as much as we can. It's basically kind of like jellied soap, so it's non-toxic. Well, we're trying different degrees of this goo to see how thick we want to put it on until the director comes over and tells us what he likes and doesn't like. It's kind of an unusual thing.
Ah.
Do this before, so.
Imagine being covered like that for so long. Like with your mouth and everything. Like your nose and eyes, I mean. Oh. Yeah, I'm like, I knew there was a lot of stuff, but I kind of didn't realize.
Brilliant night, really clear night here in New York. Behind me here you see the wreckage of an airplane again, another air incident in Fringe. You'll see the transition from a person and you will see it transitioning into the monster. These things start to sprout through its back and then slowly its teeth fall out.
I have 3 sets of teeth. I have an entire back. My
God
My head
damn.
has been molded.
We have contact lenses for him, which are large sclera creature eyes. We have about 8 different dentures that he wears. Everything from simple teeth that match his own teeth. We have wiggling teeth that he can start to loosen them up, to ones where he's already starting to lose a tooth.
It's still gross the second time.
Appliances, each one taking probably
That's why I want a new mic. So this doesn't keep happening.
back barbs on him that'll go all over his back to start a
God.
slow transformation.
Okay.
This is basically the foam appliance that we have on the actor in a mold there. Every time we see a hole here, that's where spikes are coming through, and it's painted up to match the actor. The whole process for molding
God damn.
and creating everything was probably about a good week and a half of work.
That's a lot of work.
This thing, and in great agony, come flying out of the bathroom, and you don't realize what it is until later when indeed, the plane has gone down and crashed.
This is beyond the.
They spend so much time for like small scenes, you know? I think it's really admirable.
15,000 pounds worth of plane parts. And of course, we just brought it in and spread it out.
It's a lot of pounds.
Made it. And he apparently had plans this evening.
Who's in charge of the beast today? Bring it in.
So this is the final creature that we're going to use for Bowman's
Ooh.
final stage. A very exaggerated creature. It's got the big giant quills coming off of it like a porcupine, and it's also got 6 nipples on it, which is also part of us trying to investigate what this creature actually is.
I like to call it the Weirupine, although people are calling it Porcumine. Because it's not quite a werewolf, it's more like a Oh, where are you by? Tonight behind me, it's a full moon, so it's really appropriate. I was expecting zombies to come up out of the ground. And the actual creature looks just so bizarre. I mean, it really looks like something I wouldn't want to be.
It's weird seeing him happy. Because he's so serious all the time. There's more than one of everything. Oh,
The
yeah.
finale is the biggest of all the stories that were told, but that's as a story. The events of it are subtle.
She gets a phone call from Nina saying, meet me for breakfast, I'll give you what you want, meaning I'll give you an introduction to William Bell. So she goes to meet Nina in New York, and Nina doesn't show. She gets in an elevator and then ready to leave, and arrives in this strange kind of place and is escorted into an office.
What we're doing today is to bring these two characters together for the very first time in an enigmatic situation. Olivia doesn't quite know where she is, and when she arrives, not only does she not know where she is, she doesn't know who I am until I introduce myself. And when I say, I'm William Bell.
We're just trying to make a surroundings for William Bell that inspire him. Well, you know, we're dealing with a man who I think is sort of a Renaissance
so
man.
cool that
There's
they
a
like.
prototype over there of Nina Sharp's mechanical hand.
And they brought him for like just one episode, like one scene, not even an episode.
Here is in an alternate reality, one in which exists in the here and now, but in a slightly different way, so that we see that Obama is the president of the United States, yet when we pull back at the end of the scene, we'll realize that we're in the Twin Towers. They still stand.
In terms of the outside, we recreated from drawings and pictures the World Trade Center, this corner office, which was sort of an interesting experience having to put this up again, having been a born and raised New Yorker and living here and watching these fall down and then having to recreate it. It's sort of an eerie feeling.
That was before I was born, so I don't have a lot of. I just also not my country, and I didn't. So, but it must be frightful,
Is she
frightening.
really here, or does she only think she's here? I think that's part of the mystery of the show.
Even though this is a very brief cameo in essence, I'm sure it's setting him up for next season when we'll see.
Well, I hope they brought him back. Just a different actor. Oh, I just remade my face.
I've done the acting outside of the Spot character for many years now. It's exciting to be here and feel my way into a new persona. It's fun.
Yeah. Imagine doing just one character for decades. That must take a while. That must be
any show up on its feet
intense.
in the first year, particularly a show that has as much genre and character elements as this show.
It's definitely been an incredible challenge, and I think we're all very proud that we're still standing. It's a show full of possibility, and I think that's been the most fun, is starting just having the feeling that we've only started to scratch the surface.
It's really
we
cool.
had this sort of sense of what we wanted the show to be, and now here I am talking to you a year later, looking back at the first season, and I feel like we've accomplished that. I'm not saying the show's done everything it's going to do yet, and it hasn't by far. I mean, I think that so much of what we've wanted to do from the beginning is yet to come, and so I feel like we've established it. We've done the thing we wanted to do, and I think now we get to have even more fun with it, knowing...
Yeah, everyone keeps saying that season 1 is not that good as like compared to the rest, so I can't wait for the rest. And I think that was it. Yes. So that was it. Those were the extras. It was so good. I love watching these to like... Oh god, ow. There's a hair stuck in my glasses. To like see who the actors are, see who the production team is, how they did everything. And I think it's really great. And yeah, I hope you guys like this as well. Hopefully I got to show everything on YouTube, but sometimes it doesn't work out that way, but I hope I could. I hope you guys liked it. If you did, don't be afraid to leave a like, comment, what you felt, subscribe to see more. And I'll see you guys next time with season 2, episode 1. Let's go! Bye.